No problem. You settle down. I know.
Yeah, no, everything is settled, but just time ka intezar hai, another 3-4 minutes. So let me just see who all are there. Mr. Panse, namaskar. Mr. Collins, very, very, I would say good. It's not afternoon yet. So I would say a very good late morning to you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mukherjee. Pleasure to see you again.
Yeah.
It is morning for me. Unfortunately, we have nice weather after continual rain for several days.
Yeah, so it's excellent weather in Brussels. That's great to know. And it's last few days, my son, whom you can see on the screen, lives in Munich. So he's been telling me last few days the weather has been very kind and it's warm sunshine everywhere. And great to have you on a, I would say, very good day where the weather is, the sun is shining. Pahuja Sahab, namaskar and a warm welcome to you.
Namaskar, sir.
Gupta ji, also namaskar to you. Mr. Panse, namaskar and a very good afternoon to you.
Namaskar.
Rohit, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Patnaik, good afternoon and
Good
warm
afternoon.
welcome to you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
Good afternoon.
Mr. Rajiv Sherry, good afternoon to you as well.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you after almost a year and a half. We last spoke in our last stainless steel meet, which was in September. So I think Mr. Collins was also supposed to address, but last minute there was something because of which I think Mr. Collins mentioned. Mr. Pahuja, if I'm right, you had invited Mr. Collins also, right?
That's right. That's right. Stainless steel conference cannot be complete without Mr. Tim Collins.
Yeah. So therefore, we are very fortunate to have Mr. Tim Collins as our keynote speaker today. And unfortunately, the recent developments in the last 48 hours have not been too good for any of us. So, let's hope that the situation settles down and we do not face the crisis which people are scared about. And the world is not ready almost at the end of the pandemic to get into another trouble. So hopefully we have better sense prevailing on the forces up there. And also Mr. Putin, who should also realize that it's not the time to fight on an ego. So having said that, I think it's almost time, 3:30. So with your kind permission, gentlemen, may I request Ankit to start the proceedings for the day?
Yeah, so just before I begin, wanted to inform everyone that this webinar is streaming live on YouTube and I've shared the link on the chat. So without further ado, let us start with the proceedings. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all the panelists and the attendees who have joined us today. And of course, to everyone watching on our live stream on YouTube. We welcome you all to our 42nd webinar titled Indian Ferroalloys and Stainless Steel Summit, co-organized by Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, Indian Ferroalloys Producers Association, and Steel and Metallurgy. A warm welcome to our sponsor for the day, Sadda Metals and Alloys, and our knowledge partner, Jindal Stainless, for making this event possible. So I would now introduce our panelists for today's webinar. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, it is. Go ahead.
So first we have our chief guest for today, Mr. Tim Collins. He's the Secretary General, International Stainless Steel Forum. Then we have Mr. Karan Kumar Pahuja, President, Indian Stainless Steel Development Association. Mr. Manish Sarda, Deputy Managing Director, Sarda Metals and Alloys Limited, Chairman, the Indian Ferroalloy Producers Association. Mr. Vijay Sharma, Director, Jindal Stainless. Mr. T.K. Patnaik, Secretary General, the Indian Ferroalloy Producers Association. Mr. Rajiv Sherry, Managing Director, Compo India Private Limited. Mr. Sriram V. Panse, Chief of Commercial Stainless Steel Mukund Limited. Mr. Mahesh Gupta, Director Stainless Emporium Private Limited, Kolkata. Mr. Rohit Kumar, Executive Director, Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, ISDA. Mr. J.K. Chatterjee, Director, Mitra SK Private Limited. Mr. Hitendra Bhalaria, Managing Director, Bhalaria Metal Crafts. So these were our panelists for today. Before we proceed, just a few short guidelines for smooth platform management during today's proceedings. So for all the attendees who have joined us on Zoom to listen to our discussion, we have a Q&A section in Zoom, which can be accessed by panelists and the attendees. So I would request everyone to post your questions and queries in the Q&A section. And I would request all panelists to keep their microphones muted when the other panelists are speaking to avoid any kind of noise feedback. Last but not the least, I would request all panelists to adhere to the time limit as given in the program to avoid delays. Today's webinar will be moderated by my father, Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee. And on behalf of Steel and Metallurgy and our sponsor and our partners, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar. So we will now have the national anthem, followed by which we will display a corporate video by our sponsors. So I would request you all to please rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, Ankit.
Yeah, so before we move on to the panelists, we do not have a video from our sponsor today. However, we have this video of GSSE, and I would like to share that now.
No.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank
So
you,
now,
Ankit.
over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ankit. Well, this was a small presentation from on the Global Stainless Steel Expo, which will be held from the 12th to 14th of April in Mumbai in the at the Geo World Convention Center. So this is one exhibition which Steel and Metallurgy is a media partner, and as a media partner, we would like to promote this event wherever any initiatives are taken to promote the use of consumption of steel, be it carbon steel, stainless steel. We represent the entire steel fraternity, and as such, it is our duty and responsibility to promote stainless steel as a generic material, to find its new application areas, and to look at opportunities, how best we could utilize these platforms where one and all can come and showcase their entire portfolio. So with that, I'll just give you a brief 1 minute on what GSSE, Global Stainless Steel Expo, is going to talk about. It will be a perfect conclave for flat and long products and related technology, which you have great benefit for the entire stainless steel ecosystem. The 3-day event will be focused mainly on international B2B exhibition and conference to connect the global stainless steel industry and related stakeholders under one roof. Manufacturers, buyers, influencers, regulators, industry associations, and media who share a common vision of presenting stainless steel-based sustainable solutions. So this is the event which will happen from 12 to 14 April in the commercial capital of India, Mumbai. So it is my honest appeal to all of you. If you can make it, please make it a point to attend the exhibition, participate in the exhibition, be an exhibitor if possible, and as far as possible, try and promote this event. So I'm very thankful to Mr. Anurag Dhut for giving us an opportunity to be a media partner for this event. So now coming back to our program, we have our first speaker, none other than Tim himself, Mr. Tim Collins, who's the Secretary General of International Stainless Steel Forum, ISSF. And those of you who are aware, before ISSF was formed, it was just one body which was representing both carbon and stainless steel together. Now, after ISSF came into existence, so the stainless steel business is globally is handled by International Stainless Steel Forum. And there are certain issues which obviously Tim cannot talk about, which would be taken as a cartelization. So he will not talk about, I suppose, anything to do with pricing trends. So he will touch upon issues related to what the stainless steel industry is looking at, the challenges before the stainless steel industry in terms of raw material sourcing, in terms of availability of market, in terms of looking at new application areas. So Tim is the best person to take the lead today. So over to you, Tim. The floor is yours.
So, Mr. Mukherjee, thank you very much for the introduction. That is very much appreciated. And good afternoon, everybody. It is a pleasure to be able to join you today and to speak for a short period of time. I think if I'm right, I've got a time slot of around 20 minutes, which includes some Q&A time. So I'll keep well within that. But there are a few subject areas I'd like to sort of run through. But first of all, I think it's probably appropriate to start with the likely outlook for future global demand for stainless steels, which continues to look positive despite the cyclical nature of our industry. And the latest forecast shows that over the current decade, so going from something a little over 50 million tons of production in 2020, economic and forecast data suggests we should get to the mid 80 million tons of new production by 2030, which is very encouraging for the whole industry. And I think that starts to frame things rather well for what I'd like to talk about next. And I'll go into specific market sectors in a few minutes, but I think first it's probably appropriate to consider raw materials. And there's no doubt that we have some really strong features from an industry perspective, because we are able to recycle a lot of our end-of-life stainless. And when you look across the 6 major consumption categories for stainless steel or market sectors, the average lifetime in usage is about 25 years. And that ranges from some very short lifetime usages of 7 years when you look at sort of automotive, domestic appliances and goods, to much longer usages in construction, for example. But with that average of about 25 years means that we have this current lag of available scrap to remelt. So scrap availability is, at a global level, still a challenge. And one of the things that is a challenge for our industry is to prevent the leakage of stainless scrap into the carbon and general steels industry. We lose something of the order at a global level of between 15 and 18% of our scrap at end of life to the carbon and general steels industry, and something around 10% is lost to landfill, which is quite scary. Now, there's regional dynamics to landfill. So the Americas, for example, puts more into landfill than many other regions of the world. But one of the challenges for us is to capture more scrap, because there is no doubt that the higher the scrap mix, the lower the carbon footprint. And we have clear evidence now from analysis of inputs from the ISSF members that there is a very linear relationship between overall CO2 emissions of production, that's cradle to gate emissions, so from extraction of raw materials to whether it be coils, sheets, bars, rods, etc., supplied into the marketplace. This is the emissions footprint over that part of our supply chain is very much driven by scrap mix. So it's really important that we work to capture more. Our losses of scrap to the carbon and general steels industry is predominantly associated with ferritic scrap, because segregation methods are still not that advanced around the world. It's still segregation by magnet technology, and that needs to change. So we're now in discussions with major recyclers and the recycling confederations to start to look at how we can change this in a cost-effective manner. There is no doubt that general and alloy steels producers don't want lots of chromium in their scrap. That is not interesting to them, and we want to capture it. At a global level, I believe we're losing somewhere around $1.2 million worth of chromium to the general steel industries per year. So this is not small numbers, and that's just through inabilities to segregate scrap at the moment. So scrap is one thing that we need to focus on. Then we have to consider the emissions footprint of our ferroalloys that we will always need and are a very important part of our overall raw material mix. And whilst there is some good work going on, there is no doubt that the industry needs support in terms of reducing the carbon footprint from our ferroalloys producers. And recently I attended a webinar on nickel, on the production of nickel. And whilst nickel demand is increasing, our demand is about 70% of the total nickel produced, but battery technology is increasing and currently stands at 13% and will continue to grow of the total nickel demand. There is no doubt that we need to sort of clean up the nickel supply route from an emissions perspective, and green energy production, renewable energy production will be a core to that shift. And that's much needed, of course, we don't deny that, but equally that will be really good for the demand for our products. And I'll come on to that in a few minutes' time. So in terms of setting the scene, the future does look very positive for us. There will be some bumps on the road along the way. We know that about our industry, and we know we have to do more to recover scrap and sort of decarbonize our other important raw materials. But then looking into the sort of sectors that we're expecting to be able to sell in and grow in forthcoming years, I'd like to focus on a few of them. And there is no doubt, I will start with the issues of climate change. There is no doubt we have to look at stainless steels as an element of protection systems, particularly for coastal areas, coastal economies, people who live by the coast, so urban settings on coast. And the Pacific region itself suffers from about 50% of the extreme events, whether that be tsunamis or other extreme weather events. So that region of the world will need some support. And there is no doubt, based on things like the Japanese model to install 10-meter high tsunami gates in duplex stainless steel, has been a very, very welcome benefit to their protection of land and coastal economies. And that model is something that can be reproduced around the world. But equally, there are more natural approaches being taken with the growth of various foliage and plants within pots placed in the seawater, where stainless reinforcing bar will have a really good opportunity. And these will provide much more subtle and green resilience against seawater rises. So this will protect land in a more subtle way, away from the areas that suffer the extreme weather changes. So I think there are two really good opportunities for stainless steel, looking at both the sort of physical hard barrier type approaches to climate change and the more natural vegetation-based approaches. But equally, we have to look at, because of the effects of climate change, preserving our scarce resources. And to illustrate that, I'd like to sort of use the notion of water supplies. So maybe everybody doesn't appreciate, but around the world, 30% of the treated water on average never makes it to the point of use. And that comes at a cost. And the cost is not only as consumers, we pay for that treated water that never gets there, but it also, there's a cost of repairing and maintaining the supply systems. Now, what's really interesting is 90% of the losses occur in what's called the last meter. So from the main supply line to a property, that's where 90% of the losses occur. And we have now proven cases where stainless water pipes over that section, that last meter section, reduce those average losses from 30% to less than 2%. We have 4 cities that have fully adopted this, being Tokyo in Japan, Seoul in South Korea, Taipei in Taiwan, and more recently Shanghai in China. And other cities are starting to come on board. Now, 30% losses is an average. There are some cities that are already much better and some that sadly are much, much worse. But if we don't preserve this type of resource, then in the future, we will have significant periods where regions of the world do not have fresh water supplies. So I think we have to, as not just an industry, but as a global society, really wake up to this opportunity. And the stainless solution that is proven in the major cities already is based on a 316L stainless, and it's a trenchless installation, so you don't have to dig holes in the ground. You can push the pipes through the soil, so it's very quick to install, and it will provide a trouble-free service life. So that's well established, and we're rolling out that program with support from our Team Stainless members, which is the Institute, the Molybdenum Association, and the Chromium Association. I'd like to sort of move on to consider other market sectors. So if we think about decarbonisation, there's the transition to renewable energy, which is really important. A bit of background.
Yeah, Ankit, can you mute everyone?
Thank you. Yeah, so we've got the renewable energy sector, which encompasses many approaches, and I think will provide some great opportunities for stainless steel, particularly in offshore settings or coastal settings, where the need for corrosion-resistant steels will become a big issue. And one of the things that's interesting that I was discussing in Europe quite recently, one of the leading manufacturers of electrolyzers for the production of hydrogen has decided to actually move their electrolyzers offshore to avoid the notion of electricity line losses in transmitting electricity from the offshore wind farms to a shore-based electrolyzer system. And that's quite interesting when you compare that electricity line losses are more than hydrogen line losses, which is probably not fully understood. So there's great opportunities there in the green sector, but also in terms of things like arrays for holding solar panels. There's a big development in the use of 304 stainless there, which is really encouraging. So I think we can see many opportunities in the renewable energy sector for stainless, but we have to be at the forefront of those developments. People are not naturally going to come and choose stainless. We have to be out there informing them of how wise that choice is and showing them from a life cycle perspective how resilient our products are. But things don't stop there. Construction will be a big issue, and this relates to sort of new urban developments. Mass urbanization is still continuing, but also replacement of existing infrastructure that's been damaged by the effects of climate change. And with the introduction of the new AISC standard 370 at the end of last year in November of 2021, we have the opportunity to make the specification and use of stainless steels in buildings much easier. Now it no longer requires bespoke calculations. And this offers advantages, particularly for duplex stainless steels, where the strength characteristics are supreme. So there's other specifications being worked on now. Eurocode 4 for composite bridges is being developed during this year, and that should be completed soon. So a lot of work in the area of construction, excuse me, and a lot more interest from people who are specifying materials for coastal roads, coastal bridges, coastal defences for stainless steel. So great opportunities there. But again, we have to be on the front foot, as we tend to say, to make sure people understand. Now, one of the things I've not really touched on yet is the sustainable credentials of stainless steel. I've not touched on that in detail. And a lot of work we've been doing in the ISSF recently is looking at the life cycle emissions profile of stainless steels in differing applications versus other materials. And those other materials will naturally include metals, but may not all the time. They may include plastics and composites. And what is quite clear is when you look at opportunities for stainless steels from a life cycle emissions perspective, stainless steels win each and every time by a long way, because you don't have the ongoing maintenance needs. The emissions profile obviously depends on the scrap mix, but even if you have a poor scrap mix, it looks pretty poor on day one, but 50 years later, stainless looks fantastic because it doesn't need that intervention that other materials need or replacement. So I think this is one of the areas where we can truly promote and educate people into why choosing stainless is a good choice, and couple that with life cycle costing, where typically you get a 20% benefit by choosing stainless over competing materials. I think we have in our armory now some really good opportunities to educate people. But that's the worry for me. The world is still very traditional. We still think very traditionally, and we have to spend a lot of time in the field of education because people are conservative in their choices. And we have to respect that, recognize it, but change things too. And I think what is important is that we use existing installations or examples to educate people. It's not just about presenting the credible data. It's very much about saying, here are the examples you can take a look at. So to sort of wrap things up, because I think I'm coming to the end of my sort of speaking time, I think the future is bright. I would say the future is shiny. Of course it is. But it's not without challenges. And we know that manufacturers of competing materials are not sitting back. So we have to be out there. We have to take every opportunity, and we have to reach as many people as possible. Social media, for all the criticism it gets, is a perfect vehicle for promoting stainless steel and changing people's perceptions. So with that, I'd like to sort of say thank you very much for your attention. And if people would like to pitch questions, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Tim, and really grateful for comprehensively covering all the major issues. You know, whenever we talk of stainless steel, the first thing which comes to our mind is the aesthetic appeal. Stainless steel should be promoted as generic material because it is aesthetic, because of its aesthetics, because of its hygiene, especially when it comes to, let's say, medical equipment. We don't think of anything else except stainless steel. So stainless steel has marvelous qualities. Well, for example, in water tanks, contamination is a very big issue when it comes to usage of drinking water tanks. So there, stainless steel perhaps could be the material of choice for everyone. The only element which perhaps comes to a country like India is the cost element. But then, you know, you have to keep in mind the life cycle cost. You don't need to replace, for example, a rubber water tank or a plastic water tank needs to be replaced. And there are so many health risks associated with it. But when it comes to stainless steel, you have a life cycle guarantee. So similarly, when you covered the issue of raw materials, the scrap issue quite well. And, you know, in fact, one of the things why I decided to merge the stainless steel webinar with the ferroalloys industry is because of the ferroalloy prices going through the roof. There are additional challenges which the stainless steel industry faces today. And I think, Tim, you are aware that India recently has, in fact, introduced two scrap policies, vehicle scrap, which I think will go a long way in making the availability of scrap a lot easier in this country. And we have another issue, which is the quality of scrap which is available. That I think Mr. Pahuja will also touch upon, and Mr. Vijay Sharma will also touch these issues, which needs immediate attention. But surely, Tim, you covered almost all the major issues quite comprehensively, and my special thanks for you. And let me tell you, even with little bit of promotion that we did in the last, I would say 72 hours, we have more than 160 participants here, other than on Zoom. Zoom, I still do not know how many people are watching us on Zoom, but at least on this platform, on Zoom alone, I can see on YouTube, perhaps we'll have a couple of hundred more, but on Zoom alone, I can see 160 odd participants here, which I would say is quite a good number, considering the fact that we are confined to stainless steel industry alone. When you talk of carbon steel, you have large number of players, but this is a smaller segment. And you know, to end off what you covered, I would like to add just one more thing to that, which is I keep on saying that I do not see a carbon steel as a competitive material for stainless steel. I see complementing it. I see where applications of stainless steel adds value in the sense of whether it is aesthetic value, hygiene issues, whether they're critical applications. These are areas where stainless steel could act as, I would say, complement the carbon steel. So I'm not looking at carbon steel as a competitive material at all. I see it as complementing it. So with that, I'll thank Tim once again, and we'll move on to Mr. K.K. Pahuja, who is the president of Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, and also someone who has spent a good time with Steel Authority of India Limited. And so he has a perspective which is a producer's perspective, as well as a general overview of the industry in terms of where it is headed. So over to you, Pahujaji, Mr. Kamal Kumar Pahuja.
Just before we move on to Mr. Pahuja, I just had a request to Mr. Manish Sarta. So he has joined from, I think, 7 or 8 or 9 devices. So it is clogging up the panel. So Mr. Sarta, if I could request you to disconnect from all the other devices.
Yeah, you can. What I suggest, Ankit, you could do is you could just send a text to Mr. Sarda or in the chat section, so that he lets you know which device.
Unfortunately, even I'm unaware how this is happening. Even I was wondering, and I was questioning my executive assistant as to what is this going on. I really don't know.
Not a problem, Mr. Sarda.
So, but I believe my assistant said that, you know, the option is with Ankit. He can remove them as panelists. I will switch on my video. So I will switch on my video, so you will know.
Switch on the video, so I
which
can.
one? Yeah.
So you
so
can.
Okay.
You can remove them as a panelist.
Thank you, Manishji. Thank you. Really grateful.
Most welcome. Sorry, because I'm not aware how this is happening.
Yeah. Next, you are the speaker after Mr. Pahuja. You are the next panelist. So just a few more minutes before you get on the floor. So over to you, Pahujaji. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Nirmala, and thank you for organizing this conference. Good afternoon to all the distinguished panelists, delegates. I will start with reiterating the vision of our Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, which says that we strive for corrosion-free world and a sustainable society. So sustainability is at the core of our working in the stainless steel industry, as Tim has also pointed out. And sustainability means the practice of creating structures and using processes that are environmentally responsible and resource efficient throughout a building life cycle, from design, construction, operations, maintenance, renovation, and finally deconstruction. So we work in that environment, and the inherent qualities of stainless steel allows us to do it. Since it is fully recyclable, low maintenance, aesthetics, low life cycle cost makes it highly environmentally friendly. And Tim mentioned about the coastal, construction. India has a coastline of about 7,500 kilometers, which is a highly corrosive zone. And India loses almost 3 to 4% of GDP to corrosion, which works out to almost $100 billion. So this is where we contribute as an industry towards sustainability. So this is with the inherent merit of this material, the stainless steel consumption has been going up in India. I will not get into the traditional areas of stainless steel consumption. I will add to the tremendous opportunities which are opening up in India, where a combination of cyclical and structural factors are now playing out to create a multi-year growth environment for stainless steel industry. We are looking at several new areas of potential stainless steel usage emerging in India. I think there's some disturbance.
Please go ahead.
We just heard the finance minister announcing a $10 billion public spending program for infrastructure for the next year in her budget speech. This will urbanization is going to be part of it, which Tim mentioned, but the infrastructure building is going to be a very, very fast activity and high priority activities. And some of the government infra building agencies like Railways and National Highway Authority of India have already adopted stainless steel as a material of choice, and we see it as a major growth driver. Government has announced also a national policy on biofuels, under which ethanol blending of petrol has already started, and we are close to, I think, 8 to 10% this year. It is planned to take this ethanol blending to 20% by 2025 and even go higher with the development of flexi fuel engines. Stainless steel is going to be the critical to building the ethanol supply chain, and our industry is already working with OEMs to meet that kind of requirement. Another important area is the renewable energy and hydrogen economy. Government has launched a national hydrogen mission, and India has pledged to generate 50% of the power from renewable energy by 2030, and we are on track to do that. We are closely looking at the possibilities in the energy sector on how stainless steel industry can contribute to this effort. Another area that is coming up very fast is the food and the farm sector, which is expected to grow very fast. And wherever there is food, there is going to be stainless steel. For example, India is the largest producer of milk, but we process only a third of the milk produced. So that shows the kind of potential which are available. Similarly, in other areas of farming like fisheries, agro industries, edible oils, and grain storage, they provide tremendous opportunities for sustainable stainless steel solutions. And as we know that India is going to be expected to be the fastest growing economy and also the fastest growing stainless steel market this year. Some of the global events may hamper this, as we have seen in the last few days. But since the Indian economy is mainly focused on internal consumptions, we feel that the impact on India may not be large, except maybe in the high cost of energy. Keeping in view the trend of stainless steel growing faster than other metals and the new applications which are coming up, we feel that stainless steel production will grow to almost 5% of the total steel production in next 25 years, to a level of almost 20 million tons from about 4 million tons at present. I'm sure my industry colleagues will add more to this scenario. We at ISDA will continue to work with the stakeholders to realize our ambitious growth objectives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pahujaji, for really adding value to the Indian context. The other day I was doing some browsing with regard to the use of electric vehicles, the EVs, and I was surprised to find that most of these so-called what we called as totos, or the three-wheelers, food trucks, all of the food three-wheelers that I saw, the entire material, entire body was stainless steel. Not only just the cooking section, but the entire body was made of stainless steel, which impressed me a lot because it looked so, I would say, in terms of aesthetic appeal, it looked so wonderful. And let's hope that we can drive to change the mindset in this country, that whenever you use stainless steel, it becomes more expensive. But that's a mistake. This notion has to be changed. And I think Mr. Pahuja, you can take that lead forward and convince the general masses of this country that when you use stainless steel, maybe initially you're paying a little more, but in terms of life cycle cost, you're saving a lot more. So as they say, महंगा रोए एक बार, सस्ता रोए बार बार. So people who spend more may be crying for the first time, but in the long term, they gain a lot in terms of the life cycle, which they save in terms of. So let's hope
people have stopped crying. They are willingly adopting stainless steel now.
Great. And not only that, in fact, whether it is the metro rail coaches, whether it is, for example, I think the stainless steel industry did a great job by initially bagging the Delhi metro. I think that was a great achievement by the stainless steel segment of India. And all the metros that are being built today, I think stainless steel industry should come forward and give the presentations, whether it is the airports, the metro railways. Stainless steel adds value everywhere. You look at the modern airports today, they look fascinating. And think of the airports we used to see 20 years ago or 30 years ago. They looked horrible. So the aesthetic value which stainless steel has added to these structures is mind-boggling. So thank you, Pahujaji, for really giving us an insight into that. And now it is the turn of the input material, which whenever, Tim, I'm sure you must have tasted biryani. So whenever you eat biryani, especially since you are from the UK, and everywhere in UK, biryani is very popular. In biryani, the most important element, as they say, is the masala. So similarly, we call the ferroalloys the masala in the entire cooking, in the entire steel making process. So it is the masala which adds the typical value to the material. So we have a major ferroalloy producer, Mr. Manish Sharda, whom I met years ago when he was a speaker in our conference in Vizag. I don't know if you remember Mr. Sharda, but you were there in one of our conferences as a speaker in Vizag, where the chairman of Vizag Steel Plant was a keynote speaker. And we spent quite some time there at the Taj Gateway in Vizag. That was years ago. So with that, may I invite Mr. Manish Sharda, Deputy Managing Director of Sharda Metals and Alloys. And he's also the chairman of Indian Ferroalloy Producers Association. So I'm sure you must be having some issues which you can relate to with the stainless steel segment, who are a major consumer. At the same time, the stainless steel users of ferroalloys will have certain issues which perhaps you can answer. So over to you, Mr. Sharda, and thanks for also being a sponsor today. So over to you, Mr. Manish Sharda.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Indian Ferroalloys Association. The ferroalloys industry primarily thrives on the steel production, stainless steel, mild steel, alloy steel, and with the government taking massive steps in India to increase the production capacity of steel through the various initiatives such as the National Steel Policy 2017, Steel Mission, Research and Technology of India, and the domestically manufactured iron and steel products, which are few of the initiatives that are the potential boosters for the ferroalloys industry in India. These initiatives have also helped India to become the world's second largest steel manufacturer. India has a long way to go when it comes to the per capita steel consumption. As you are aware, that India's steel consumption per capita is 74 kilograms, whereas if you look at the global average, it's almost 224 kilograms. This could just be another reason, for the growth of the ferroalloys industry in India. In addition to being a critical input for the steel production, ferroalloys is, the industry itself is a potential employer, employing around 150,000 people. And most of the ferroalloys industries are in the backward areas of India. And these backward areas, have very less job opportunities. So in a way, Indian ferroalloys industry is employing a lot of backward region people and improving the life and the quality of life in these backward areas of the country. At present, the Indian ferroalloys producers have an installed capacity of around 5.75 million metric tons, with the production hovering to around 4 million tons. Also, India is the largest seaborne exporter of silicomanganese and the third largest exports of ferrochrome after meeting the domestic demand. Unfortunately, India has lost its, the top 3 spots in terms of the ferromanganese production because we are one of the most expensive power producers in the world, and our cost of electricity is very, very high. But in spite of all the problems that we have, which I'm going to speak later, but I can assure you that the Indian ferroalloys industrialists, or the people who are running their plants, are one of the most hardworking people trying to compete globally, and hats off to them. Because of them and the support of the government, we have become the largest silicomanganese seaborne exporter in the world, which is a great feat compared to the fact that we are one of the largest and the most expensive power producers, in the world. The current growth in the steel sector has given ferroalloys industry decent realizations. But however, steel prices, if you look at the movement of steel prices during the last year or so, they were up 100%. And ferroalloys prices have only risen close to 35%, or between the range of 35 to 40% during the same period. In addition to the disparity in prices, the ferroalloys industry also struggles for raw material security and is completely dependent on imports of basic raw materials such as manganese ore, lamb coke, which lacks supply of recommended quality of ore and coke in India. The ferroalloys industry is very specific in terms of its quality, because today, world over, we are the largest exporters, and in general, the Indian ferroalloys industry has been able to maintain the quality requirements of the global standards. But there are still certain sectors in the stainless steel and the specialty steel industry where the Indian ferroalloys producers are still not a preferred supplier, and in a big way. We are still supplying some of the top-notch qualities like low boron silicomanganese, but we still need a good source of raw material supplies internally to be dependent on our internal supplies. From manganese ore perspective, no new mines are set up, and the imports of manganese ore in India, it's a staggering 4 million tons approximately. In the recent past, all the major ferroalloys producers in India today are totally dependent on very high quality manganese ore, which is not available in the country. 0.4 to 0.6 lakh tons of 0.4 to 0.6 tons of lamb coke is used for producing a ton of ferroalloys. The coke required for the industry is basically the undersize of the prime coke, typically in the range of 6 to 30 mm. And it's actually a very small tonnage, which is not impacting the coke producers, in a big way in India. In addition to this, there is a duty of $25, which is hurting the Indian ferroalloys industry. And one of the major factors making things difficult for maintaining India's global position in the ferroalloys industry is the duty structure on manganese ore, the duty structure on coke. And I am still not able to understand that why, when we are not using the prime grade of coke, which is actually the breeze, the breeze coke, there is a duty of $25. So this is kind of, hurting the industry to produce globally competitive materials. On top of the things, we have the high electricity cost as well. The import duty on basic earth minerals and anti-dumping duty on lamb coke for imports, especially from China and Australia, which is, not abundantly available in the country, goes actually against the Prime Minister's vision and mission of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and is a huge pain point for the industry at the moment. From the finished product side, under the ASEAN FTA agreement with Malaysia, the large quantities of cheap imports of manganese alloys from Sarawak, Malaysia, is also affecting the growth of ferroalloys industry. The Malaysian ferroalloys industry, basically is dependent on the hydropower that the Malaysian government is giving to them at a power tariff of 2 rupees 20 paisa to 2 rupees 50 paisa per unit, as against India's average of roughly 5 rupees 50 paisa to 6 rupees 50 paisa across different states which are producing ferroalloys. This brings down the cost of manufacturing of ferroalloys, for Malaysians to the range of 35 to 40% compared to the ferroalloys production cost of, India. And despite these issues, India is among the top 5 largest producers of ferroalloys in the world. And the Indian industry has immense potential and capability to compete in the world markets. There is a need for the government to take notice of the fact that in spite of all the problems and in spite of all the difficulties and in spite of being one of the highest in terms of the power cost structure, we have still managed to achieve the feat of being the largest seaborne exporter in the world. And we bring in a lot of foreign exchange for the country. We are all in all trying to make sure that our domestic demands are met in full, and there is no shortage of ferroalloys in the country today. If you look at the installed production capacity, we are almost 40% over and above what the country needs today. So we have, as an industry, tried to manage and strike a balance in terms of our domestic supplies to our steel plants, to the public sector units. And we have also tried to manage a good scope and a good supply chain for the international markets, which has brought in a lot of foreign exchange for the country. India's biggest advantage is in this industry, I would say, is the industrious nature of the promoters and companies which are manufacturing ferroalloys. It's got a huge experience. Our association, the Indian Ferroalloys Producers Association itself is 60 years old. It is one of the oldest associations in the country. And time and again, we work with the government hand in hand to see what best can be achieved for the industry. In terms of quality, we are improving day by day. We are meeting the Japanese standards. We have tried to incorporate entire Ferroalloys industries, united in terms of maintaining environmental balance, and we've tried to incorporate new technologies in terms of the environmental concerns. We are seeing large furnaces being set up in the country, which was primarily done by public sector units like Maharashtra Electro Smelters, which had one of the largest furnaces. Jindal Stainless has achieved a new feat by incorporating a 60 MVA plant in Jajpur. Our company ourselves, Sada Group, has initiated the 36 MVA furnaces in Vizag. So the country is going from strength to strength in terms of the ferroalloys production. We, as the industry, the ferroalloys fraternity, is absolutely convinced that environment and climate change is a matter of great concern for us as well. And we are taking all precautions so that we do not pollute our environment, as it depends on us to take those steps, which we are as an industry taking forward. And the ferroalloys industry is fully capable of being one of the largest producers in the world in times to come. And with that note, I would like to say thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to showcase what the Indian Ferroalloys industry and the Indian Ferroalloys Producers Association stands for today. And we hope that in the coming times, the stainless steel industry also flourishes, because we are highly dependent on the steel industry. And the good of the stainless steel and the steel industry is the good for the ferroalloys industry. Thank you very much, Mr. Mukherjee, and thank you all the panelists for contributing their part of the story to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manish Sharda. Manishji, it was really an experience which I think all the steel makers in this country would have liked to hear, because the steel industry has always been stressing on one fact, that we must have universal power tariff all over India. We have one tariff for Andhra, one tariff for Rajasthan, and we do not have uniformity in electricity. And electricity cost is one of the major burdens which the ferroalloy industry is facing today. So I'm happy that you brought up that issue, and I'm sure the steel makers also would like to follow up on this with the Ministry of Coal, Ministry of Power, and to ensure that how best we could rationalize the cost of power in this country, so that you have a uniform tariff all over the country, and we have the potential to bring this cost down. And having said that, we also know that the tariff barriers are in place, which has actually no meaning. And I'm sure during the course of these discussions that we have, the meetings and conferences that we are going to have representatives from Ministry of Steel, Ministry of Commerce, all to come forward and listen to the issues which the ferroalloy industry needs support for. And I'm sure the ferroalloy industry, being so well connected with both carbon and stainless steel industry, the steel industry's survival depends on the ferroalloy industry. That's for sure. And with that, I thank you personally once again for sparing your valuable time to be with us, not just representing the entire ferroalloys industry, but also on behalf of your company, Sada Alloys. And with that, I would also like to thank you for your association giving us the support of being a co-partner for this event. So thanks also to your secretariat headed by Mr. Patnaik, whom I knew during his days in Moil. As you know, he was the director in Moil, director production of Moil. So I knew him from the days he was in Moil. And thank you, Mr. Patnaik, once again for being with us today. And with that, I'll move on to someone whom I love listening to all the time, because we are in touch on a regular basis. And it's none other than Mr. Vijay Sharma, director of Jindal Stainless. and he has a major role to play in the entire stainless steel industry in India. Not just because he's a major player, because a person who has so much of interest to promote the stainless steel industry in India. So whenever, in fact, I remember the last time we had the webinar as well. So it was Mr. Vijay Sharma and Mr. Pahuja who took the entire initiative. Both of them had taken that initiative to ensure that we invite one and all to participate. And today I'm happy that in addition to the 160 odd participants we have on Zoom, I'm sure a couple of hundred are watching us live on YouTube today. So this has only been possible with the blessings of my mentors like Mr. Vijay Sharma and Mr. Pahuja. Thank you so much. And thank you, Tim, for your kind consent to be with us in such a short notice. So really grateful. Thank you, Manishi, once again. And it's over to Mr. Vijay Sharma, Director of Jindal Stainless. So Vijayji, the floor is all yours.
Namaskar to all the esteemed panelists and the participants. And big thank to Ankit and Mr. Mukherjee. And Mr. Mukherjee, you're so kind. You humble me. Thanks for this dedicated webinar. So today you have relieved me of the responsibility of complementary positioning of stainless steel, because most of us are already so much into the stainless steel. And Ankit, I think that we are 2-3 minutes ahead of the time. Be lenient with me if in my passion I take a couple of minutes more.
Don't worry, Sharma. You can take as much as time as you want. We are flexible today because we don't have too many. So you have enough time.
Thank you very much. Today the business is at the crossroads. Global situation is super VUCA. Government's focus is on the nation building. So Vision 2047 is very critical. Thank you, Mr. Pahuja, for the intent, content, and the vision. ISDA's efforts and initiatives are really laudable. And personally, I am proud to be part of ISDA. However, after stalwarts like Mr. Collins and Mr. Pahuja, it becomes difficult for me. I will try. My thoughts today are on the future readiness for the ecosystem which is required, because 2047, it gives a good optimistic vision. Whether we are ready for that or not, and before 2047, there is another step in between 2030, which is aligned with the NSP 2017 of 300 million tons of steel. And Pahuja, I mentioned that will become 5% of steel in 2047. So today we are around 3%. So even 2030 also becomes important. I'm very sure this 3% will increase to more than 3.5 to 4% of steel in India. So that creates another challenge. I think we need to deliberate on, is the ecosystem ready? Is the ecosystem conducive? And what we need to do. I would like to set the context in today's current market situation, because 2B is always dependent on as is. First is the post-pandemic. Mood is up. We are bullish. Last few quarters are encouraging. Exports also gave good opportunities. Spurt in demand, multiple reasons: global economic recovery, infra spending, stimulus packages, vaccination confidence, and China factor. It also led to commodity price boom, positive inventory valuations, also operational efficiencies, leading to better profitability, and also conflicting interpretations of the commodity boom. Will it continue? There are short-term, mid-term, long-term, mixed views, but of course, it's a commodity. So the stability of the demand-supply equations, they will play a role. There are multiple thoughts to it. There will be certain transformational changes, which will lead some of the metals to remain high. These are related to RE, green energy. There are conflicting thoughts even on nickel also. EV, which is 8% last year, is likely to increase to 28% of nickel consumer in 2030. But again, the supply side also is working on it. So there is a possibility that by 2023, the nickel also comes down to a stable level. And then the global uncertainties, VUCA has become super VUCA, rightly said by Nirmala, last 48 hours. Russia importance, I am not a political analyst, but we cannot ignore the economic impact of whatever is happening around us and hopeful, and I'm assuming there is no militarized action, but even the economic action can be severe. If we talk about Russia, 30% of EU oil, 35% of EU natural gas, 49% nickel of the world, 26% aluminium, largest wheat producer, 25% of the globe. So sanctions will definitely have the challenges. Oil is already 100 plus. China surprises. Despite of the decarbonization drive, exports rebate, withdrawal, something related to swap, at least in India, the import from China, it doubled. And nevertheless, the trade remedial measures happening across the world, each stainless steel producing country is trying to impose trade remedial actions on the others, primarily because of irresponsible capacity expansion by China and Indonesia. I think globalization has turned to nationalization. In this context, we need to understand what is the demand sustainability in India, in Indian context, in the stainless steel context. It is linked with the next growth cycle of the nation, with the GDP. And of course, here comes the union budget. This is my personal view. Except for the baffling and contradictory specific decisions of withdrawing the level playing field against China and Indonesia, personally, I will say that it is bold, futuristic, and transformational. The key themes being economic growth, competitive environment, safe and healthy nation, and of course, Atmanirbhar. It means long-term fixes, sustainable. It means metals are must. Which metal? Every metal has got a space, but LCC will play a very, very important role. Pahuja Sahab rightly referred about around 4% GDP erosion because of the corrosion. Well, this innocent looking 4% is equal to one Germany economy every year at the world level, 2 Walmarts at the US level, and 1.5 times of the biggest private sector company in the country. So sustainability is very, very critical. Mr. Collins and Mr. Pahuja talked about it. I will just say that the 3 pillars of sustainability: people, planet, profits. Stainless is the best fit. It has been growing the fastest. And how this situation convert into numbers in the context of India. Today, 2.5 per kg per capita, around 3.5 market size million. Capacity is more than 6. Somehow in India, there is a structure where more than 30% is in MSME. So some numbers are hazy and gray. If I take a conservative growth of 7 to 8%, I use the word conservative because at the organic growth level, this has been happening in the country in the last 7-8 years, CAGR. The market demand will reach more than 7 million tons. So that means we'll be needing anywhere between 8.5 to 9 million tons of the capacity. And if I take it to 2047, around 20 million tons, Pahuja Sahab also said, it will be needing about 23-24 million tons of capacity, with the assumption that today's import intensity, which is unfortunately 25% in case of stainless steel as compared to below 5% of steel, there will be the level playing field, and hopefully it comes down to 10% because India today technically is competent and capable of taking care of most of the requirements of stainless steel in the country. But yes, like any other country in the world, nobody can beat China, Indonesia, having 20 to 30% of government subsidies. So there are opportunities, they exist, but there are challenges. A lot needs to be done. But before that, I would like to have a little discussion on the industry structure. Like I referred, India has got a very, very typical structure wherein about 30% of the primary producers of stainless steel are in MSME. We call them PATA, flat rollers, around 70 induction furnace manufacturers, 500 re-rollers, basically supplying to the household suppliers. We have got 5 or 6 other manufacturers, mid to large. And in fact, the capacity utilization in India is practically from 0% to 90%. 0 means somebody was in NCLT, and at aggregate level about 60%. I talked about capabilities. We are in a position to cater to all the applications in the world. One of the example which makes us proud is Indian stainless steel of Jindal Stainless going to ITER, which is happening in Europe, the extreme high-end requirement of stainless steel. Exports, India is exporting a lot to Europe, a lot to North European countries like Germany. That speaks about the industrial applications, acceptance of Indian stainless steel, more than 120 plus grades, all series. And out of these 120 plus grades in last 2 decades, 80 grades have been developed by Indian R&D. However, historically, Indian stainless steel industry has been under financial crunch. Jindal Stainless was under CDR for 10 years. Somebody was in NCLT, somebody was in BIFR, and many MSMEs have also closed. But fortunately, for multiple reasons, external and internal, like I said earlier, there has been positivity, better balance sheets, better financials in the last couple of quarters, which has given the strength and encouragement to some of the stainless steel producers like Jindal Stainless, already commercial commitment of investment in 1 million tons, and also others also who have taken the bold step of taking over some other SIG companies. So this is the typical situation of Indian stainless steel manufacturers. The profitability of Indian stainless manufacturers have been typically from 0 to 10% pre-COVID time. After post-COVID, because of the economic recovery, things have improved. 10% people have come up to 14 to 15%, but it is at EBITDA level. And for such a huge investment, I don't think that 14-15% is adequate. But in any case, it is half to 1/3 of the steel profitability. Now, coming back to the challenges and the opportunities, there are primarily 3 types of challenges which Indian ecosystem is facing. Some are common with the general businesses. The first and foremost is, are Make in India products competitive? To give just 2 examples, cost of capital, cost of logistics, it makes us 8 to 10% less competitive as compared to other countries with whom we have to compete with, and coupled with the subsidies being given by countries like China and Indonesia. But I am very hopeful. The budget and general direction of the government, whether it is a Gati Shakti, whether it is Awas Yojana, whether it is investment financing, digital rupee, Indian sovereign bond listing, global bond indices, I strongly feel that these cost competitiveness will improve appreciably. I said traditionally there was a profitability challenge. Investor confidence has been lacking. 1 million ton means $1 billion. 1 million ton also means about 25,000 direct and indirect skilled labor force. So these are the challenges. I would like to thank Government of India for various initiatives, whether it is bold RCEP decision, reviews of FTAs, NSP, SIMS, standards, scrap policy. But industry needs a lot more hand-holding with the government for the competitiveness improvement, apart from the initiatives being taken by the government. But these are not short-term, these are mid-term and long-term initiatives. Industry needs to survive in the short term to get encouraged to invest for the mid-term and the long-term. Some of them are level playing field related, trade remedial actions against dumped and subsidized imports, non-tariff barriers related with HS code rationalization, more faster QCO implementations, domestic value additions like melt and manufacture acceptance, exports incentives, steel and 2-3 more HS code categories like pharma, they got left out by RODTEP, standards upgradation, LCC based public procurement. Just to share, we are 5th largest economy, 2nd largest in the population, but per capita, unfortunately, we are 142nd at just meager $2,200 per annum per capita. 1.5 lakh rupees banta hai. So unless there is a public procurement push for stainless steel, this vision, you know what I'm saying. And of course, the process simplification, whether at DGTR level or at DGFT level, it will lead to better profitability. I strongly believe that profitability is not a bad word. Industry is doing a lot of things. While supporting ISDA, because they take lots of initiatives, and of course, in the independent capacity also, we being the leader, we have the accountabilities and responsibilities. My appeal to fellow producers is, no country is able to compete with China. परिवार में समृद्धि आती है तो टकराव थोड़ा कम होता है. It is better to fight internally than to fight against China. We will not be able to do it. So this is a national interest. big thought, we must work together for the growth of made in India stainless steel industry in the country. My appeal to downstream producers are, of course, business hai, there are conflicting interests. Tube manufacturer will want that tube should not come, but the coil should come. So, but we have to look into the long-term perspective. The ecosystem has to exist with coexistence. Nobody can survive alone. This is my appeal to downstream producers. Coming to the second challenge of the ecosystem development, I divide it into two parts: awareness about stainless steel. Even today, steel ko loha kaha jata hai and stainless steel ko steel kaha jata hai. I interact so much with media. I always very humbly tell them, if there is a space paucity, please drop steel word when you're talking about stainless. They always drop stainless. So there is a big challenge of the awareness. Whether it is the complementary nature with steel, whether it is a distinction with steel, whether it is application-specific solutions, whether it is a LCC. Yes, there are challenges, but I will like to tell you some recent achievements of the domestic industry. You said, Mr. Mukherjee, something about water carrying this thing you found in stainless steel. EVs, FOB, ROBs, bread molds, water carriers. So these are some of the examples of the success stories in India. And what Jindal Stainless is doing, we have already introduced stainless steel courses in 11 institutes, including IIT, NITs. We have got tie-ups done with. Last week, we had a tie-up with NIFTEM. We have a tie-up with MNIT Jaipur. And on this Monday, we had a tie-up with Government of Haryana to introduce stainless steel course in 41 polytechnics in Haryana state. So we are trying to create that awareness. The second challenge is the skill development related with stainless steel, whether it is primary producers or it is intermediate processors or even the end product manufacturers. Stainless steel, it is not difficult, but yes, it is fragmented, it is small. Industry is doing a lot of efforts in this direction. To name the few, we are in touch with NSGC, Capital Goods Skill Sector, and Iron and Steel Skill Sector Council. We have identified for the primary producers, 187 roles exist from melting to the cold rolling. In that, 12 key roles constitute 80%. So we are in touch with NSGC to create the qualification packs. Then these can be specifically introduced in some of the institutes so that not only for us, we being the biggest, we are able to train people. Somebody else also would be able to train people. Just imagine when the ready-made qualified children come to us, then how easy it becomes for us to take the return on investment from them. In case of intermediate processing, it's such a beautiful material, but when we see the quality of the weld, it pains. When I visit Europe, all of you would be seeing the difference. So ISDA and we are doing a lot of things. In our case, we have invested into 4 vans. We call this concept the Jindal Stainless Academy. 4 vans, 11,000 fabricators have been trained till date. And since last 1 year, now the trainings are being done along with NSGC. Just imagine the pride of that fabricator when he gets trained, he appears for the test, he passes, he gets a certificate, which has got the stamp of the Government of India that he is a qualified stainless steel fabricator. So this is the quality and the pride we are trying to give to the stainless steel fabricators. FOBs and ROBs, you have seen that, but the pace which would have gone to train those welders in industrial fabrication, but things are happening, things are visible. And in fact, we have taken initiative of training the jail inmates also, so that even their quality of life can be improved. Coming to the downstream, I have got lots of friends. I observe that all these skills are collected through the experience. There is no course which teaches you about the pressing, die making, fitting, things like that. We are in touch with NSCC to develop such QPs. And to start with, and I have got some friends in Kundli who are supporting us because we being the leader, we have to lead the ecosystem development of the country also. And we are hopeful that like with Haryana government, we took 8 months only to introduce it. We are very hopeful that with NSGC also, we'll be able to do it. The third big challenge is the MSME challenge. Like I said, the supply side has got about 30% MSMEs and demand side has got practically, most of them are MSMEs with the new definition of 250 crores of the turnover. MSME by nature is having a conflict with the supply chain management efficiencies, whether the technology gaps, whether scale, whether compliances, whether labor intensive hona, whether financial challenges. So it's a big challenge. We make stainless steel, we are big producers, but ultimately somebody buys gate, somebody makes exhaust. So ultimately we need to ensure that in the ecosystem, this MSME needs to be developed. Here also, Jindal Stainless is doing a lot of efforts by using the platforms like SOCHAM, PSD, because these platforms are doing things like that. And I personally am very much involved in this. My appeal to my MSME colleagues, whether in the primary producer sector or in the intermediate processing sector or in the downstream, is to join such associations, contribute, influence, and avail. Government is willing, schemes are available. Just to give you a number, there is a scheme of government Udyam. Out of 6.3 crore MSMEs, and we all know the good words which you talk about MSME, backbone of economy and all those things, only 11% have joined that Udyam. So indifferent, people do not really want to avail because of perhaps the bulkiness, because of the so many things. But I am taking up with them through SHM and other associations. Coming to the end, I would like to summarize. Opportunities, yes, they galore. Challenges, yes. Solutions, resounding yes. But the larger interest is coexistence of complete ecosystem, make in India, self-dependent. Let's handhold among ourselves and with the government to progress together. For more such deliberations, I welcome all of you to visit GSSE 12 to 14th April at Mumbai. It is exclusive to stainless steel. Participation by all stakeholders, including the government sector, domestic and international visitors, and lots of thought-provoking conferences. And steel and metallurgy being the media partner, you will get more interesting flavors to it. And we are the title sponsors for that. So thank you very much. Dhanyavad. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarma Sahab. I think no one else would have been able to cover the initiative so very well, which with the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative in mind. When we talk of our smaller players, the patta rollers, the fabricators, and so on and so forth, I would just request them with my folded hands, keep the nation's interest at first before anything else. We are here to create wealth, not just to make money. To make money, you should be selling rolls, not entering the stainless steel segment. If you're here in an industry which contributes so much for the building of the nation, please keep the nation's interest at first. So rather than cheap imports from China, and it's not just India is willing to face anyone in a level playing field, but when it comes to dumping, let's understand China is killing us before killing the industry. So in other words, we have to, in order to be Atmanirbhar, the first thing we should keep in mind is to promote our domestic producers and to ensure they are able to cater to the needs of the nation. And having said that, I remember almost 20 years back, it was Mr. Ratan Jindal whom I had invited to in Bhubaneswar. That was about the time when the plant in Bhubaneswar was almost being commissioned. So that was the time when Mr. Ratan Jindal was there as a keynote speaker in our conference in Bhubaneswar, where I had specifically mentioned that Jindal Stainless would be the flagship stainless steel producer in India for days and years to come, because of the commitment of JSL to build a nation where we will be the drivers of our own fortune. And I'm sure in the days ahead, many more players. I have a very good friend, Mr. Bisamba Saran, whom I used to pull his leg all the time. I used to tell him, you started with a plan of 5 million tons, ended with 0.5 million tons. Mr. Saran was the chairman of Vida Steel. He had planned initially to go for 5 million tons, but could not do it. Now, I don't blame him, because in this country, finance costs are very high, and whether it's the carbon steel or the stainless steel industry, the return on investment takes time. For the plant to be built up itself takes a couple of years. So the capital cost being so high, I'm sure one would understand why such initiative, which I think Mr. Sharma very well explained, how quite a few players fell flat on their face. But having said that, India is changing. It's a different India today. Our finance cost is coming down. Our availability of technology is becoming easier. As Mr. Sharma said, $1 million for $1 billion. So to build a 1 million ton capacity, you need $1 billion. So in such a situation, I think one needs to also work hand in hand with the fabricators, which I think JSL started right from the beginning to build the stainless design center, where the fabricators, in fact, I took the initiative long ago, I'm talking about 2000, 2005, during this period, to do several workshops. We all know stainless steel welding is a difficult subject. Not everyone can become a stainless steel welder. So you need skill development for stainless steel welding and fabrication. So Jindal Stainless played a bigger role, and ISDA also has been quite proactive in this. So in the days to come, I think the financial institutions, players like SIDBI, Small Industry Development Bank of India, the bankers, they should come forward for skill enhancement, just like we have the Iron and Steel Skills Sector Council, where Mr. Sharma himself is very closely associated. So I think one should take this initiative forward. Now, before we have the next speaker, Mr. Patnaik, Mr. T.K. Patnaik, who is the Secretary General of Indian Ferroalloy Producers Association, and also he is an ex-director production of MOIL, Manganese Ore India Limited. Before we put him on, may I request Ankit to share a few questions which people may have for Mr. Sharma, our audience may have for Mr. Sharma. And thereafter, you can play the video of Shraddha and go over to Mr. Patnaik. So first, the questions for Mr. Sharma and other panelists. Ankit, if you can just share the questions.
Yeah, just opening it. So we do not, I'm not sure if we have any questions for Mr. Sharma. There is one question for Mr. Pahuja, and it is from Mr. Ayan Singh. And he asks, what is the current annual quantum of production of stainless steel long product, PATA and white flat products?
If I talk of production at the crude steel level, that is melt shop level, we might end up this year with a total melt production of almost 4 million tons. And the long product segment would be about maybe 1.2, 1.3 million tons, and rest will be flat products. This is almost maybe 75-25 ratio in consumption market and production for long and flat and stainless steel.
Any other question?
Yeah, so we have
Thank you,
we have 4 more questions, but they're not directed to anyone in particular. The first question, I think, was for Mr. Tim Collins. The question is, how will the market conditions be for silico manganese in 2022-2023 year?
That I think Mr. Collins and Mr. Manish Shraddha both can answer.
Mr. Collins or Mr. Shraddha, would you like to take that question?
Yes. So I guess when we're talking manganese specifically, we're looking at the 200 series austenitic grades primarily, which are, whilst a significant component of the portfolio, the stainless portfolio in India and to some degree in China as well, are less commonly used across Europe and the Americas. So there is really a very regional dimension. However, I think one thing that's really interesting is that if we consider the demand for nickel and the fact that the output of nickel has to grow over the coming decade, and it also has to decarbonize. There are some embryonic, if yet unproven, technologies for production of nickel to remove the currently high emitting smelting and refining operations, which are about 68% of the total emissions associated with nickel production. So if those changes don't come, then I think the demand for manganese as a nickel substitute, because the nickel price will not then go down, becomes much more interesting at a global level. So I think there is an interesting possible change on the horizon, but it is related to how the nickel industry develops in the rest of this decade. So I don't think we're maybe faced with an immediate worry, but I think it is something we should keep a very close eye on. So that's what I'd like to say on nickel, because I can't talk nickel prices as such, manganese rather, sorry.
Mhm.
So I would like to add upon that. You know, somebody's posted the question that how would the silicomanganese prices remain in the coming year? So a very close friend of mine said, do not predict long. And if you're predicting long, make sure if it goes wrong, you're not around there. So, so my take on manganese pricing, overall manganese ore and silicomanganese both, that they would be stable or probably move up from here and remain at these levels, or probably move up by $100 odd or $200 odd. Now, this is based on certain scenarios. One of the scenario is that the demand is going to be strong for steel. Is India's steel production is going to be ramped up. A lot of new production will come in. We are seeing also the situation of basically the oil pricing and the gas pricing in Europe, where we feel that there will be a high cost curve for the European producers. And we have seen that there have been cuts in terms of production of alloys across Western Europe and Eastern Europe. We are seeing also that the demand in the MENA region is growing because of the steel production being pushed and the steel production being up in those regions as well. We also feel that a major impact can come in if there is a stoppage of production at the Nikopol plant in Ukraine, which currently we have seen what has happened in the last 2-3 days. And if the escalation is more, we will see that there is a shortage in terms of manpower at the plant. It's one of the largest plants in the world. It's a 1 million ton plant. And we might see some stoppage or production cuts there. And the pricing totally depends upon the production cut or the stoppage at Ukraine plant of Nikopol. All in all, we feel that the shipping costs have gone up, the logistics costs have gone up, the cost of bulk logistics, which was from South Africa, which is the major exporter of manganese ore, has gone up from $40 odd to $52 odd in the last 1 week itself. So we are feeling the pricing pressure in terms of production cost, which will force all the ferroalloys producers to increase their pricing. And one of the major reasons, what I think will bring about a change in the manganese alloy industry in terms of the raw material cost, is also that some of the major electrical vehicle companies, which use basically the batteries, and the manganese based batteries are also, you know, they are doing trials and they are doing a lot of work on the manganese based batteries to replace a very high cost nickel and lithium. So we are waiting for that also to come into play in the coming 2 years as such. And the manganese ore demand will rise, the manganese ore pricing will rise. And I personally see that these pricing pressures may lead to an increase in pricing from the cost structure side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sarda. Thank you, Tim. Mr. Patnaik, would you like to add anything to this? Yes, Mr. Patnaik, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry. Already it has been dealt by Mr. Team and Mr. Sarda. Basically, we are definitely confident of the future of ferroalloy industry in the world and more so in India because of the National Steel Policy. It emanates from National Steel Policy 2017, where we are wanting to increase the per ton the consumption of steel in the country and the capacity, expecting the capacity to reach 300 million tons into 2030-31. So that is a quantum jump from today's level. And once that jump is there, obviously the demands are going to be very high. As Mr. Sarda during his deliberation has already mentioned, we happen to be the largest seaborne exporter of silicomanganese and the third largest for ferrochrome. So definitely our export, and we are known in the country, we are known in the world. India is known as a very high quality producer of ferroalloys. So with that name continuing and India's demand growing, I am confident that the price and the demand of ferroalloys in India is going to grow from level to level. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patnaik. So, Ankit, now without further ado, let's move on to our next speaker, which
Yeah.
is Mr. Patnaik. But before that, please play the Sarda Alloys video, and then we can move on to Mr. Patnaik.
Just before going to the video, so there are a couple of more open questions and the panelists can choose to answer it. I write their answers directly in the
chat
Q&A.
section.
Yeah.
So over to you for the corporate video of Sarda, and then we can move on to Mr. Patnaik.
Sarda Energy and Minerals Limited. Synergy in energy. SCML, the flagship company of the Sarda Group, is listed on the BSE and NSE and has created a niche for itself owing to its strong fundamentals. It figures in top 500 companies of the country with consistent profitability. Turnover of over 300 million US dollars. Net worth of over 200 million US dollars. Minerals asset base of over 10 billion US dollars. For a business that SCML is into, iron ore, manganese ore, coal, power and water are the key resources inputs, and SCML has meticulously ensured uninterrupted supply of these inputs through acquisition of mines, installation of captive power plant, dedicated water supply system, own railway siding. SCML has implemented SAP, R3 and state-of-the-art automation system. SCML is an ISO 9001-2008 certified organization and has embarked upon an initiative to achieve the ISO 14001-2004 OHSAS 18001-2007 certification. It has already implemented Quality Circle, 5S and Disaster Management Plan and has its own 24/7 operating fire station to prevent any hazards. Apart from automated and computerized operations, SCML adheres to stringent quality checks at every step, right from raw material selection to manufacturing to final dispatch. At SCML, quality is not just a buzzword, but a mindset that runs throughout the organization, right from the top management to the shop floor operator. Little wonder that SCML has today emerged as a force to reckon with in the energy and mineral industry in India and marching towards becoming a global icon of synergy. It is this unique facet that has enabled SCML to garner significant market share and earn a loyal customer base. What's remarkable is the fact that in a very short span of time, SCML has been awarded Star Export House status and today exports to over 60 countries worldwide. Synergy in energy. Sarda Energy and Minerals Limited.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ankit. Thanks, Mr. Sarda, for your support. So we will now move on to the presentation and the speech from Mr. Patnaik. Mr. Patnaik will address us. He's the Secretary General of Indian Ferroalloys Association. And earlier, as I mentioned, he was director with Manganese Ore India Limited, MOIL. He was director of production in MOIL. And followed by Mr. Patnaik will be Mr. Rajiv Sherry, Managing Director of Auto Compo India. So back to back, Mr. Patnaik and Mr. Sherry. So Ankit, in the meantime, Mr. Bhaleria is trying to join. If you can just touch base with Mr. Bhaleria, because Mr. Hitendra Bhaleria is in the attendee section. He says, if you could just locate him, he's joined with 1+7 ideas.
In the attendee section.
Or you can ask him to perhaps use the raise hand option so that you can identify him.
Yeah.
Mr. Bhaleria, if you can listen to us, if you can use the raise hand option so that we can find you out and upgrade you to the panel. Please use the raise hand option. In the meantime, Ankit,
I've sent him a request.
Okay. So Ankit, in the meantime, we'll request Mr. Patnaik to take over. So there you have Mr. Hitendra Bhaleria. Mr. Patnaik, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. Thank you for the introduction. Only a small change I would like to indicate that maybe when Mr. Mukherjee met me, I was holding additional charge of Director of Production of MOIL, but I was in MOIL for about 6 years as Director Commercial. In between, for a year or a little more than a year, I was holding additional charge of Director of Production. So maybe that is the time we met. So Mr. Mukherjee remembers me as a Director of Production and not as Director Commercial, but basically I was Director Commercial of MOIL. Prior to that, I was in SAIL also for 33 years in the length and breadth of the country, from position to different positions I held. Anyway, so today I thank Mr. Mukherjee and the team for having given me this opportunity. I will try to do best use of the opportunity given. Good evening, Chief Guest, Mr. Team. Good evening, panelists. Good evening, all the attendees. Actually, Mr. Manish Sarda, our chairman of IFAPA, has already made my job much simpler by giving an excellent overview of the entire ferroalloy industry as well as the Ferroalloy Producers Association. That has made my job very simpler. But I will go a little deeper into certain aspects where some of the attendees who may not be very thorough about ferroalloy industry or Ferroalloy Industries Producers Association, they may be interested. So I will be going within that overview a little deeper into certain aspects which Mr. Sarda has also touched. IFAPA, as you know, as he mentioned also, is 61 years old, was established in the year 1961 as an association of ferroalloy producers in the country to basically promote, protect, and watch over the interest of the association of the industry, both bulk ferroalloys and noble ferroalloys. I'll come little later into what we call bulk and what we call noble ferroalloys. But these industries, ferroalloy industry is situated in the length and breadth of the country, but mainly concentrated in 3 regions in India. One is the eastern region, which is the biggest, located mainly in Durgapur, Asansol, and also Odisha so far as ferrochrome is concerned. The next is south, where it is in Visakhapatnam, Babli, and going up to Paluncha in Telangana. And there is a central region also. These are the 3 main clusters of ferroalloy industries in the country. Central region is in Raipur and Raigad. So, but other than these 3 big clusters, ferroalloy industry is basically present in the length and breadth of the country. Ferroalloy basically is an alloy of iron with an element other than carbon. And ferroalloy introduces that particular element into the molten metal and carries it through the process in steel making. The principal ferroalloys, as I told you, are divided into 2. One is bulk and the other is noble, we call it. Bulk ferroalloys are mainly the ferroalloys with manganese base, with chrome base, and ferrosilicon. So in manganese, we again have got ferromanganese and silicomanganese. In chrome, we mainly have ferrochrome. and ferrosilicon also. So these three are called bulk alloys. And noble alloys are like ferrovanadium, ferromolybdenum, ferrotitanium, which are called noble alloys. They are very precious products. I will deal with them separately. This ferroalloy industry is these ferroalloys are basically prepared from charges of this ferrous metal ore, iron or iron ore, coke, coking coal, and flux by treatment at very high temperature in arc furnaces, submerged arc furnaces, in so far as bulk ferroalloys are concerned. Noble ferroalloys basically follow a different process, an exothermic reaction, aluminothermic or aluminosilicothermic reaction for the purpose. These ferroalloys basically, as I told you, are used in steel making. Ferrochrome basically for stainless steel, manganese-based ferroalloys for all steel making, and it adds so many qualities to steel which makes steel what it is. The major producing countries in the world, as Mr. Sarda has also mentioned, mainly we have China, India, Russia, South Africa, Kazakhstan also. All these countries, and now Malaysia has come to as a major player without much usage of ferroalloys. Malaysia has become a big producer, which actually is a threat, which also I will be dealing separately. And in India, the capacity is about 5.7 million tons, main manganese based. Then about manganese based will be about 3.5 million tons capacity. And base for chrome alloys will be about 1.82. Then ferrosilicon, we have capacity of about 2.5 lakh tons, and this noble alloy is about 50 to 70,000 tons. This is the entire ferroalloy industry of the country, catering to the need of India as well as exports. Exports, you know, manganese based and chrome based. Maximum portion of a very high portion of our production rather is exported to various countries, and we happen to be one of the most quality exporters in the world. About 45% of silicomanganese produced in the country is exported, which makes us the largest seaborne exporter in the world, and almost 50% of ferrochrome produced in the country is also exported. Basically, these markets, what we have captured, are extremely good for us. There has been a very good dealing with so many countries. Even most quality producers in the world have accepted ferroalloys produced in India and are very happy dealing with these ferroalloys. But why is entire capacity not being produced in India? The basic reason again is the cost of power. Power cost in India, as you know, varies between 4 rupees to up to 8 rupees in a state like Maharashtra, as against 2 to 3 rupees maximum in countries which compete with us outside. So that basically, and you know, the cost of power is the main element in our costing. See, for say ferrosilicon, if we give the example, which is highest cost centric, highest power centric, about 8 to 10,000 units of power is required for production of 1 ton. So supposing, for example, if we take in a state like Maharashtra, if we are giving 8 rupees per unit and 10,000 units are consumed, 80,000 is the power cost itself. Raw material and nothing, they are much less cost than this. So these have been, this power cost has been a very difficult element for India to compete, notwithstanding which India has been such an important exporter of ferroalloys. In addition to the cost of power, we also do have certain difficulties, like Mr. Sarda also mentioned, that manganese ore, more than 50% of manganese ore consumed in the country is imported. India hardly produces 2.7 million tons of manganese ore. Out of that also, mostly of medium and low grade, high grade ore is very less. And we import about 3 million tons. Sometimes it will, this year maybe it will be touching 4 million tons of import of manganese ore. So we are largely dependent on imports. Low as metallurgical coke, which is a must for production of ferroalloys. We use between around 500 to 600 kg per ton, is not available in the country, is available in the country to a very limited extent, only in Dhanbad belt. So depending on the logistics, India, some of the producers import. Most of the producers located in and around Vizag have to go for import because that will be cheaper. And this slab coke import has also a duty, which I will be dealing what all policies will be are there, which also retards our further growth of ferroalloy industry. Then we also have logistical difficulties in India as compared to other countries. India being a big country, even from the mines, indigenous mines, whoever takes the material, like imagine somebody located in Visakhapatnam, I told you the bigger 3 clusters, or somebody in Durgapur or Asansol area, and whatever high grade ore, manganese ore is available in India is in central India, in Madhya Pradesh. So the logistics cost also adds to the costing. Mainly what has happened is, that is why, since more than 50% of the requirement, or around 50 to 55% of the requirement is imported, the units situated in the heartland are mainly using the indigenous material, manganese ore, and those who are near the ports, they are basically dependent on imports and imported grade, and not only quantity, even the quality. The Indian, most of the production of ore in India, manganese ore, has to be used in blending it with the imported material because of the grade. So this has been, there has been very high dependence of our manganese ore, coke, and we have full dependence for most of the noble alloy, vanadium, molybdenum. None of those ore is available with us. Nickel, we have to, entire dependence is on imports. So basically, with that also, ferroalloy industry has been working relentlessly, as Mr. Sarda also mentioned, because of the industry's own motto of prospering and making the nation to prosper. India has been working very relentlessly towards this. Some concerns other than this power or import is also there, where maybe certain government intervention today. As it was mentioned, in many of the things, government has already intervened. Government is on its right path to achieve the goal of 300 million tons of steel capacity and 240 tons of production and 160 kg of consumption by 2030. So in the process, a lot of schemes have come and a lot of schemes have been very effective. But then some concerns still remain. The concerns, I will tell you, lamb coke, India is not self-sufficient. But we have to naturally depend on import. Maybe up to 2008 or so, if I remember, lamb coke had no duty. Then they put 2.5% duty. In 2014 onwards, the duty is 5%. When we are unable to provide it indigenously, I do not think that there should be any import duty. Manganese ore, as I have already told you, more than 50% is imported. This year, maybe the ratio will fall to 40% indigenous and 60% imports. But still, there is a basic customs duty of 2.5%, which I think is not much justified. So far as, say, I will give you noble ferroalloys, like one case I will give you, ferromolybdenum. It's also used in stainless steel making in some series, a lot of series under 300 grade. So in that, what happens, today, there is a free trade agreement with some countries, and some countries like Korea are basically dumping this material in India. The raw material is also not available in India. For raw material, we have to pay 2.5% basic duty for moly ore and moly concentrates. Ferromolybdenum also, from countries other than FTA, there is a 5% duty. But then, when it comes from a FTA country like South Korea, which is the major importer, and most of the requirement of India is met from imports from South Korea, under FTA it is zero duty. So basically the duty structure becomes inverted. The raw material is available at a higher duty than the finished product. So the industry is not able to achieve the results. Basically, we are falling in the hands of foreign countries. See, Malaysia, Sarawak, Mr. Sarda mentioned, there are 3 big facilities in Sarawak, and a 4th facility is coming in Peninsular Malaysia also, which is going to be ready with about 1.5 lakh tons production in next maybe 4-5 months. So these are the issues which are supposed to be addressed by government for further enriching the ferroalloy industry of the country. See, there is road tape was introduced last year with a lot of hope and aspiration, but then ferroalloy industry is not covered in road tape. You know, under MEIS, the reduction in benefit was from 4% to 2%. That itself was very high for putting ferroalloy industry into difficulties. Now road tape was introduced, where we expected some remission, but no remission has been given to ferroalloy industry. An industry which is able to export touching 50% of its products, the exports should be encouraged. And road tape could have played a very major role in improving further our exports and our also production in the country for the purpose of export, which would have enriched us. But if you see National Steel Policy 2017, mainly 2 things they say about ferroalloy industry. One is that government will encourage setting up of bigger industries. They are getting set up definitely. And the second is because it is mainly power intensive, so basically captive powers will be encouraged. But then captive powers are there with most of the major producers. But then we should see the way coal prices are varying in the country and abroad. Thermal coal, which just to see 2021, January maybe we started with $69 if we see international rate for the purpose of comparison. And by September, it had more than doubled. Why more than doubled? It had become much more, around, if I remember correctly, it was about $248, $249 in the month of September. It started falling after that, and today it's around $190. So even if somebody has put his captive power plant in order to take advantage of his own captive power and not pay very high power cost, which various places in government at varying rates charge, because of this hike in coal prices, his captive power also will not be supporting him to become a profitable producer and a profitable exporter. So these are the issues which are supposed to be addressed by government. One after another government is addressing, and we are quite hopeful that in future government will be able to address more and more issues, and our ferroalloy industry will definitely prosper from level to level, and we will be continuing as the largest exporter of ferroalloys, in addition to meeting country's demand, which is going to have quantum jump in line with National Steel Policy. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity for being engaged with such a good group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patnaik, for highlighting the woes and challenges of ferroalloy industry so very well. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, the power tariff has to be rationalized in this country. We must bring the power cost down. And in days to come, the way we are looking at decarbonization as a very important subject, something which concerns all of us, we must look at alternate sources of power as well. And I think this is something which is bound to happen. The writing is already on the wall. So alternate power at a more reasonable cost is something which we look forward to for the survival of one and all. So thank you again, Mr. Patnaik. And you also covered the tariff barriers quite well. So with that, I'll now move on to another important player in the stainless steel market, Mr. Rajiv Sherry, who was there in our last webinar as well. So warm welcome to you, Mr. Sherry. And let me also take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Valeria, who has just joined us. So before any further delay, because we are already delayed by almost 25 minutes. Your slot was at 5, now it's 5:25 by my watch. So we are delayed by about 25 minutes. So without further delay, over to you, Mr. Sherry.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Nirmalaya Mukherjee and Ankit Mukherjee for organizing this event on stainless steel, including Indian ferroalloys industries. And speaking on stainless steel industry, after Mr. Tim Collins, Mr. K.K. Pahuja, Mr. Vijay Sharma, all stalwarts from the industry have spoken, it is like lighting a bulb in front of the sun. So please, I was listening to them very carefully, and it was a very enriching session for me to learn more about stainless steel industry from all of them. And listening from Mr. Sharda and Mr. Patnaik, I must admit that I am not aware about ferro alloy industry so much. So it has been a very good learning experience for me so far. And when I was hearing to them and I was just writing down the keywords that we were hearing again and again from all the speakers, and it was basically we are now talking about climate change, for example, reducing carbon footprint, recycling, how to maximize utilization of scrap, sustainability, life cycle cost, how to educate our customers and generally people about stainless steel benefit to them, and also how to make corrosion-free society. As all of us know that corrosion is having a very big dent on our GDP. So I have made a small presentation and I will share my screen if you allow. And I will try to be quick. Can you see my screen now?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
can
can see.
all see it, all see your screen. Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. So the first, in my presentation, the first screen, you see a picture. And this basically talks about diversity and inclusion in our society. And we at Compo, we are working very hard on it. And we want to make sure that all the society representative, they get an equal and fair representation in our organization. Compo, as many of you know, is the global leader in stainless steel. And with a sales of 7.7 billion, last year, it was a very good year, $1 billion of EBITDA, around 9,000 employees, 2.4 million ton of deliveries last year. We have operations in over 30 countries, #1 in Europe, #2 in America, and in Asia Pacific region, we are focusing on specialty stainless steel. Our main raw material is recycled steel. We have our own chrome mine in Kemi, and we are listed on Nasdaq Helsinki. As you can see, the performance for last year in terms of stainless steel delivery, it has improved by about 12%, and sales value in terms of value, it increased by about 37% from 5.6 to 7.7, mainly because of increase in the raw material prices and the sales prices of stainless steel. And EBITDA increased fourfold almost from 250 million to 1 billion. So it was a very good year for stainless steel industry, and all the players, they have done very well. And we have a solid presence in Europe and USA.
We can take help of Mr. Trujillo. Yes. I discussed with him.
Sorry, there's some noise in the background. Okay, so all of us know that stainless steel is very important, and because of its properties like corrosion resistance, heat resistant, high strength, hygienic, aesthetic, cost efficient, and sustainable. So that is why we see application of stainless steel everywhere. And the stainless steel industry is continue to grow at a good pace in near future also, where it is going to be a material of choice in future. If we see a long-term outlook for stainless steel industry, in 2021, it is estimated that the demand for stainless steel flat product was 39.3 million tons, and it is likely to increase to 47.6 million tons by 2026. So a growth of 21% is expected in next 5 years globally. And if you see all the sectors, whether they are related to consumer goods, chemical and energy, architectural, building and construction, heavy industry, it is showing a growth. Automotive and transport is one area where we are expecting growth to remain at a stable level. And why stainless steel, and it is becoming more and more popular, and what are the driving forces behind our industry? So the first one is about megatrends, long-term growth supported by global megatrends. So global megatrends means now we are having more and more population moving to urban areas, and people are having higher disposable income. That is helping infrastructure development, because of which the demand of stainless steel is going to increase. Sustainability, and it is very important that sustainability is to be considered so that we put minimum burden on our natural resources. Now the new ways of working are more digitalization, and we have to improve our efficiency and better customer service by digitalization. Circular economy production is based on recycling, minimizing the waste and making the most of resources. What are the positives and what could be the challenges for stainless steel industry? On the positive side, we have rising middle class, infrastructure investment, industrial production growth, climate change, and which are driving need for sustainable solutions. On the challenges side, we have a global cost pressure on our operations, intensifying competition from low-cost producers, and volatility increasing due to heightened political risk. And this we have also seen in last 2 days, that how the political risk can also create a big issue for our industry. In our stainless steel industry, we are having more than 90% recycled content. And if you compare it with China, they are having at about 23%. Our ferrochrome carbon footprint is about 42% of industry average, and 80% of our electricity used is neutral. That means we are using renewable energy for our operations. And we are committed that by 2050, we will be carbon neutral in line with EU Green Deal targets. We are recognized as an industry leader in sustainability. In EcoVadis, we are platinum rating, top 1% performer, and also from other renowned agencies, they have given us a high rating. In terms of product portfolio, basically from flat products, slab and hot rolled, cold rolled, precision strips, long products, ferrochrome. We have a large product portfolio covering all application, and we try to provide solution to the customer after understanding their application and what kind of challenges they are facing. So the point which is important is that for our customers, technical expertise is something on which they rely on us, and we have 100 years of innovation experience and continuously develop new grades, new better solution, which are helping to increase our customers' with high efficiency, profitability, and sustainability. So these were my few words, and thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv Sherry. Thank you so much. And before anything else, I would request everyone to kindly keep their microphones muted so that there is no feedback for others. So I request you to unmute only when you are speaking. That's a humble request. So thank you, Mr. Sherry, once again. Very, I would say, positive presentation on looking at the writing on the wall, which is to ensure that how sustainable we could become in the days ahead. And I'm sure the Indian producers are also doing the same, because the commitment of our Honorable Prime Minister, keeping that in mind, I'm sure every producer in this country is looking at sources to make the industry more sustainable in the days to come. So with that, we will now move on to our next speaker, another very old stainless steel producer in this country, which is Mukund. Mukund Limited is, it has a legacy of its own. And my good friend, Mr. Neeraj Bajaj, Neeraj Bhai, always used to say that we are the front runners. So with that, I will request Mr. S.D. Panse, Chief of Commercial at Stainless Steel at Mukund Limited, to take the floor. Over to you, Mr. Panse.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. Good evening to all of you, and good evening to all the panelists and the chief guest. Thank you for your kind words. I'll make a small presentation. The presentation was already submitted by me. If you can kindly share the same, please. Request the host to share.
You can also open the presentation and use share content. Just open the presentation. Then if you can just click on share content, which is the green button, and then you can share the presentation.
I am using a different type of a machine, so it doesn't work that way. So that is why I was requesting. That is why I sent the.
Unfortunately, I don't have.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so just a small presentation of few slides, just to give a brief on our company. Our company, Mukund Limited, is located near Kalwe, near Thane district, in Thane district, very near to Mumbai, about 30-40 kilometers from Mumbai. And we have a plant in Kalwe, which is basically a stainless steel plant. Next, please. Our company follows the total quality management systems, ISO 9000 quality systems, total productive maintenance, education and training, and we are TS 16949, ISO 14001, OSAS 18001 certified company. Next, please. To give a small brief on our facilities, we have two plants for steel making. One plant is located in Karnataka, in Hospet, based primarily for making alloy steels. And the other plant is in Kalwe, which is making stainless steel. In Kalwe, we have inputs of scrap and ferroalloys, and we have facilities, one electric high power electric arc furnace, 40 metric ton, and a matching ladle refining furnace, a moxie and top and bottom cone converter, VDVOD, and a bloom caster, producing billets and blooms. Next, please. And we have at Kalwe facilities to test short blast the blooms, grinding and magnetic particle inspection and testing of billets and blooms. We have three mills. One is blooming mill, making steel from 95 dia to 190 dia. Another is a bar mill from 25 millimeter to 90 millimeter. An easy draw continuous wire rod mill from 5.5 to 34 millimeter. For post rolling and downstream facilities, we have solution annealing, wire rod short blasting, bell furnace and STC furnaces, pickling plants, bright bars, wire drawing plant, hardening and damping facility. Next, please. This is our process route. We have electric arc furnace, as I explained earlier, and we have three mills. Then we have downstream heat treatment and bright bars and wires. Next, please. Our product ranges from wire rods 5.5 to 34 dia, bars and rods from 25 to 190 dia, and 75 to 160 RCS. And we also produce bright bars from 5 millimeter to 180 millimeter. Next, please. And our supply condition is as rolled, solution annealed and pickled, cold drawn, peeled and centerless ground, hardened and tempered. Next, please. The stainless steel grades that we make, this is a chart that we have prepared with a very interesting chart. The base grade is 304, 18 chrome 8 nickel. And then we produce varieties of grades in 304 family. We make 316 family, which is molybdenum bearing. Then we also make titanium stabilized, niobium stabilized in both 304 as well as in 316. Then we make a large amount of ferritic and martensitic grades of stainless steel. And we also make duplex grades 2205 to 304. We also make some small quantities of 200 series, which is manganese replacing nitrogen. And we also make some 17.4 pH, which is next, please. Our applications are for products which are used for manufacturing of various finished products such as wires, for springs, welding, mesh, filters, cables, wire ropes, etc. For bright bars of machine components, shafts, turbochargers, exhaust applications, etc. For seamless pipes for nuclear application, oil and gas application, heat exchangers, etc. For flanges, oil and gas, fasteners, electro-polished quality wires, and rods for architectural applications. And now recently we have started producing rib bars also for construction activity. Next, please. Our capacities for 2022 is steel making about 15,000 metric tons per month. Rolling mills, we have wire rod cum bar mill is 18,000 metric tons per month. Our blooming mill is 5,000 metric tons per month. We have a annealing and pickling capacity mill facility, a pickling line, which is about 1,800 tons per month. And a bright bar, which is drawn and peeled root material, which is about 3,000 metric tons per month. These are the capacities. Just to brief, next please. Our Mukund is a good brand name and image in the stainless steel industry. We are a very old company. We started making stainless steel way back in 1980s. We have very committed and quality conscious customers, wide range of grades, size, supply condition in ferritic, martensitic, austenitic, precipitation hardened and duplex. We cater to wide variety of applications such as oil and gas, power, nuclear, automotive, welding, chemical, pumps, etc. We have a very experienced technical team capable of development of new products. Long experience of stainless steel manufacturing and product development. Our plant is very strategically located near Mumbai, next to the port. Ease of import of raw materials and export of finished goods, lower logistic costs. All major markets and customers located nearby, and we have uninterrupted supply of power, water, and very stable labor policies. Next. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind attention. If you have any questions on under this, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Panse. It was a brief presentation, but very informative in terms of what Mukund is doing right now. And as we all know, every industry has its challenges. So Mukund also went through its challenges. There were some internal issues as well, which has now been sorted out. So Mukund is a name of its own, as we all know. It's a Bajaj company, so it has a legacy of its own. And thank you, Mr. Panse, for highlighting the capabilities at Kalwe. Now, with that, we'll now move on to if any questions are there. Any questions, Ankit? So I assume there are no questions as of now. So we'll move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Mr. Mahesh Gupta, who is the director of Stainless Steel Emporium. And Gupta ji, first of all, namaskar, and let me tell you, you made the entire ambience so beautiful by your smiling face all through. Let us appreciate that you keep the industry smiling. So, as a, I would say, end user segment player, so you have a major role to play in pushing this Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative forward. So over to you, Gupta ji, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this August panel with all panelists, and would like to introduce myself. I am Mahesh Gupta from Stainless Emporium Private Limited, Kolkata. We came into the trading of stainless steel in 1964 as a family, when we were importing stainless steel, and then working with the PSU plants, and eventually as dealers of Jindal since 1990. So we are doing wholesale and retail sales to the direct consumers. We have a shop in Kolkata, and we are catering right from very small quantity of 1 kg to 100 tons, anything between
You
that.
are not there next week.
Yeah, third I'll be back.
Third, you are in the office or you're not there?
Both are. इसमें रहूंगा मतलब I'll be available on. Yes, I'll continue, sir. Sir, basically, I want to say stainless, as a consumer perspective of stainless grades. So stainless to a consumer is basically categorized in 3 grades. 300 series, which are internationally recognized grades, 400 series, which are stainless steel with catches magnet. As Mr. Tim said, the scrap segment, they just put on the magnet and they segregate as MS. So 400 category is just by the magnet, they put it aside. And 200 series, which is basically low nickel, cheap stainless steel available, where the manganese is used. Our ferroalloys, everyone has mentioned about the ferro manganese, which is used for making cheap stainless steel. Well, a lot of research has been put into by the plants to create the many forms of 200 series, but yet to be recognized for the efforts given in creating the grades. Needless to say, every heat which is cast for trial of different grades costs a lot to any plant. I am of the opinion that various grades of low nickel should be duly recognized and given the names under the 200 series, like 200, 201, 202, and 204 CU. So every plant is making the low nickel and having its own names. So this is where I look forward to ISDA in categorizing the grades in specific property wise and naming them. Selling in a shop with the different kind of grades from different manufacturers with their own names, it's a bit difficult. There are
proposed by John Mackey and Raj Shishu.
Sir, I continue. So there is another prospect to the retails. There are many customers who do real genuine work in terms of grade and workmanship, but lose to the international brands due to lack of recognition. I would request ISDA to create a system of branding through strict audit norms and thereby promoting the products. Committed and correct grade material is a big issue at the micro level of using stainless steel. If you don't get the proper grades being sold at the micro level, this branding will not only help the MSME with the large consumer of stainless steel, but also help the ultimate user in selecting genuine vendors. So this we look forward ISDA in recognizing the genuine users with the genuine grades. You end up getting wrong grades at the micro level of sales. Our beloved PM has made a lot of efforts on Make in India campaign. Steel makes the base of any industry, and with stainless steel trying to replace its usage with all its properties and advantages, branding will go a long way in increasing consumption of stainless steel, not only in India, but internationally. So we look forward to ISDA in helping branding the MSME sector of manufacturers and small fabricators and usages. So that's all I have to say. I move on.
Thank you, thank you, Gupta ji. Thank you. Rohit, would you like to respond to his appeal?
Yes, why not? I think during my talk, I'll take this up also.
Okay. So, Mahesh ji, would you like to add anything to, or would you like to conclude?
So I think I just wanted to speak something about the lower nickel side, which needs attention from the stainless producers and fraternity.
Okay. So your point is well taken, and Rohit will respond to it. And I'm sure Pahuja ji will also take a note of what your expectation is from the industry. And as a body representing the industry, I'm sure Mr. Pahuja and Rohit will take this forward. So the next speaker is none other than Rohit himself. Rohit Kumar is the Executive Director at Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, and he will be highlighting us more on the commercial aspects, the demand-supply situation, and these issues which is interesting for all of us. So even those who are not from the stainless steel industry would take perhaps a point or two from his points that he is going to raise today, which are of academic interest to all of us. So over to you, Rohit.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. Good evening, everyone. Though it's late, but I know after speaking, Mr. Rajiv in the beginning said, Mr. Seri has said that after Tim Collins, Mr. Vijay Sarma and our president, Mr. Pahuja, it was like, they are stalwarts of the industry. So I'll add Mr. Seri name into it and also the other speakers' name into it. And then from there onwards, I would like to add to what has been already said. I'll like to give you a little more perspective into the things which has been covered and probably would add a little more into it. So let me start by giving you some background information. We are, yes, this year 4 million tons of stainless steel melt production, 3.5 million tons of almost reaching consumption, which includes the imports also. But if you categorize it into different sectors where this stainless steel goes, pots and pans and metal goods sector is still well up to 50%, 45 to 50%. And architecture, building and construction, the large sector, it has grown from 6.6 to 7% to 11 to 12% today in last 5, 6, 7 years. Automotive, railway and transport has been going on strong, banking on Indian Railways coach making, wagon making and metro coaches. And you are aware that in automobile, exhaust is one of the regular customers for stainless steel. So 11 to 12 to 13% it has reached. Automotive, railway and transport, engineering and other goods industry is somewhere around 27%, which goes in many end use sectors, from process industry to food, pharmaceutical industry to food processing. And wherever there are issues of corrosion, stainless steel plays a big role. And rest of the industry, which is for other industry like blade steel, coins and coinages and all, some 1 to 2% of the end use is there. I'll be speaking more on market growth and what are the future ahead and what we should be doing. Mr. Sarma has covered it in certain points, but I would like to go a little more on details. See, there are four, I will categorize into 4 parts. Where ISDA is also doing its effort to increase the market share. First one is technical education. Then I have then it is technical innovation, policy modification, which is very prime in the current scenario, and the 4th one is standardization. So talking about the technical education, we have been doing it for last 30 years, and we have been, as Mr. Mukherjee was saying, he is very happy about the Delhi metro coaches, from where stainless steel was selected over aluminum, and over the last 2 decades, all the cities where metro rail is coming, it's all stainless steel. But there is a hidden story behind that also, that all the Indian railway coaches since 2018, government decided to make all the coaches into stainless steel. Since some of them are painted, like our Rajdhani coaches, Shatabdi coaches, people don't realize that it is stainless steel. In fact, the wagons, which are blue in color, not red in color, the blue wagons are also stainless steel only. So we have been educating and trying to use the properties of stainless steel to convert, not convert, but spread the stainless steel uses. So technical education, ISDA has been doing a series of webinars and physical programs over the year, where last year we have categorized our webinars into 2 sectors: emerging markets. So some of the emerging markets, like these days talks, government is putting emphasis on ethanol production. And please understand, without stainless steel, ethanol production is not possible. We have been doing some, future-looking end-use sectors of stainless steel in technical education sections, such as, green hydrogen production. I know it's a favorite topic for Tim, and he has been speaking about it quite a lot. Then we have second portion where webinar section, where we have been started. We did a series of it with Compo, and we will be doing it with more producers and technical experts in the field of stainless steel, which we call learning from experts. Still, education of stainless steel is needed, and it is needed to the level that as Mr. Sharma was saying, that even today people call the iron, the loha, as steel and stainless steel as steel. So this is the level from where we have to go upwards, still go upwards. Forget about the excellent engineering properties of stainless steel. Technical education, the first one is corrosion properties of stainless steel. Everybody knows stainless steel is being used for corrosion, to mitigate corrosion, and rightly said in the beginning, 4% of the GDP lost in corrosion, and it's a massive issue, and a potential money saving exercise for the exchequer yet to happen. So this paves a way for greater use of stainless steel. We talk about corrosion, but sometimes we forget the engineering properties of stainless steel, excellent engineering properties. Like for the example, railways, you need the most interesting properties you need for a rail coach is the impact resistance. So such critical properties of stainless steel, where certain grades score better over some of the competing materials, needs to be highlighted during our technical education. It should start not only with the government or the person or the end user, but it should go at the level of institution. ISDA has been over the year speaking in various institutions and along with its members. Yes, Jindal Stainless, rightly said, has collaborated with many technical institutes. We are also doing it for regularly to increase penetration into the mind of young people about stainless steel, so that when they grow and in a position to recommend material and understand material, they'll always be aware of stainless steel. Successes and failure due to poor grade selection or not using the right fabrication techniques of stainless steel also is a part of technical education, where we are working very effectively. Now coming to the second part, technical innovation. Application specific grades, we have regular grades like 304, 316, ferritic, 430, 409, 409L for certain applications. But there are always a chance of increasing innovation and coming up with a application specific grade, where somewhere mechanical strength is required, somewhere a little higher corrosion resistance is required, somewhere a combination of both is required. There are grades available, but challenge is before the producing companies, stainless steel producing companies, and their R&Ds to always come up with some greater grades with certain modifications. Because today there are always a need for new design, leaner structures, and innovation is a part of that. Not only innovation in terms of design and such parameters, but sustainable products which can last longer and can reduce the burden on the environment. Third part is policy modification. The most critical part from ISDA side, Stainless Steel Association point of view, in policy modification we look forward to is life cycle costing. This is the first parameter where stainless steel always scores better than any competing material. But this story needs to be told, and let us not keep it at the story level. It has to go to the policy level in terms of calculation, putting it into the project design, and adopting it as a part of the project, not as if just doing merely exercise. In 2017, we also were behind this effort to put this life cycle costing into finance rule of 2017, where it was said that any project charter should have a chapter of life cycle costing when deciding for the material of choice. But it was it was said that it may be a part of the project. It has to be a must. So to do that, we need to work with the government and make them understand that any project life cycle costing is the first parameter one should be taking care of when selecting a material. And stainless steel always scores good there. One of the examples I would like to give by policy modification is that stainless steel is also very hygienic. Everybody knows that in food processing industry, stainless steel is one of the prominent material. The milk you receive in packets in your home, without stainless steel, you cannot even imagine it. So one of the examples was that we were working towards making a standard for carrying edible oils, which is even today most of the edible oil is carried in a steel tanker, which at times is not suitable material for carrying it. So we come up with a standard on edible oil tanker, stainless steel edible oil tanker. Now we are working with FSSAI and government to make it mandatory so that the utmost purity and hygiene is maintained while transporting it. Many other exercises ISTA has already taken up with respect to healthcare industry, food processing industry to mitigate this issue. Fourth one is, which I talked about for essential for market growth, is standardization. You all are aware that quality control orders are at place in the country, which brings forward the importance of national standard and related aspects of it. So under quality control order, all stainless steel which comes under certain Indian standards has to be produced as per Indian standards. There is a new standard which is about to come for stainless steel pipes and tubes. There are various end product standards which has come up and has helped to create the market growth. Two examples I'll quickly take. The first one is reinforcement bars. In 2017, with our efforts, there was a standard made for stainless steel reinforcement bars. And after the making the standard, education was spread with Indian Railways, with National Highway Authority, Ministry of Road and Transport. And today, as you are aware, that even our minister is saying that Mr. Gadkari has said that stainless steel should be used in coastal regions for all the structures for a long life. We have started getting successes in this area, and uses of stainless steel rebar has started to increase. For a long product industry, it is a great market initiative, and it is going to give huge dividends for this industry. The second market growth area in terms of standardization would be the structural stainless steel. Some of our member companies are promoting structural for stainless steel uses along with ISTA. And recently, Indian Railways is coming up with a foot-over bridge in stainless steel and likely to come up with more bridges, road-over bridges and such bridges in stainless steel. There again, standardization is a must. Railways has come up with a standard, and ISDA is working towards making a standard for structural with Bureau of Indian Standard. This was the end, but in the end, I would like to answer some of the questions raised by Mr. Mahesh Gupta. He has requested ISDA to see that in lower nickel grade series such as 200 series, there are, as he has very rightly says, that there is no system of branding, in the sense there are producers are selling it under different brand names, and sometimes end user get confused. Mr. Gupta, we have taken this issue over the year, and now we have taken it up with the Bureau of Indian Standard, and these low nickel grades are being standardized with the Bureau of Indian Standard. And in a month or 2-3 months time, you will see that certain grades of stainless steel which has been standardized, and everybody will be restricting to those standard and those standard names, which will be later called, if I may reveal, N5, N6, and N7, which will be a standard name, and everybody will be producing as per standard. So this will at least give confidence to the end user that they are using a standard grade and not deviating further from those chemistries to the leaner side. And to helping MSME sector, you raised, you need help from our side to increase the branding image of some of the MSME, which are doing great work in the country but needs further recognition. We are always with you, sir, and we'll see how we move ahead with, and I'll have a separate discussion with you to take it forward. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mukherjee sir.
Thank you, Rohit. Really appreciate, because whatever was left in the proceedings, you covered it up so very well. And I especially liked your thought towards the branding segment approach. If you look at the mild steel sector, I mean the carbon steel industry in general, branding has always been a focus area. Whether you talk of the rebars, I always had a sort of question, why call them TMT? Because there is no thermomechanical treatment. But people still call it TMT, thermomechanically treatment bars. whereas the world over it is known as rebars. So this rebar segment is one where every player in the secondary segment has a brand of its own. And the brand ambassadors are, the big shots, whether from the film industry or cricket or sports arena. So the stainless steel industry, I think, has lagged a little bit behind in terms of, though in the, let's say the Acerinox or whatever Jindal has done in terms of its kitchen segment is very well recognized. You see the, yes, Sharma sir, boli.
I would like to add to this brand concept. You told about the celebrities in the brand. In our welded pipe and tube segment, the Jindal Sathi scheme, our celebrities are our MOU partners who make the welded tubes. And this gentleman
right.
sitting in front of us, Mr. Mahesh Gupta, is one of them. It is a co-branding scheme where along with the Jindal Stainless, the MOU partners, they have a common 2 seals together to give the double assurance to the customer that made by the right stainless steel by the right company, the raw material, and tube made by the right company having the right relations with the primary producer. That is one. Secondly, we have also introduced a checkered sheet branded Infinity, we call it, in stainless steel. And few more things are in pipeline. So things are on, but yes, it's better late than never.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, one more point which I'd like to add.
Yes,
there is difference between standard and brands. What we are talking about is branding, which is an individual producer's brand. As far as ISDA is concerned, our job is to get the standards made so that, the same uniform quality is available to the customers and the concerned producers take a license from BIS to certify that quality. But as far as branding is concerned, ISDA will not get into individual branding of any product for any producer XYZ. It is purely their choice. JSL has their own brand. Other companies can have their own brand. But you are right. The number of brands in the carbon steel is much more because the product range is higher. And stainless steel is just catching up with that trend.
Agreed with you, Pauja Saab, completely agree. Now you have to also understand that compared to carbon steel segment, the stainless steel segment is still at an evolving stage. It is still evolving itself, and you do not have, as far as numbers are concerned, you do not have too many big players. So, the concept of branding is primarily to attach a customer or to give a certain sense of loyalty towards a certain product. That is
That's
why
right.
the term brand loyalty has come. So that when I am buying, suppose if I have faith on JSL, if I have faith in JSL products, when I go to a retailer, I can say, "Mujhe Jindal hi chahiye." So
That's
that
right.
way,
So as a association, we will not try to get into branding.
Exactly.
But yes,
For example, team cannot endorse a brand Stainless India for that matter.
Absolutely.
He cannot say buy only stainless steel from India. He cannot do that. But having said that, it is the individual producer's responsibility to create, I would say, a complete ecosystem where I do not sort of buy a product which can be quote unquote counterfeit. To prevent that from happening,
the brand is built on top of the standards. So our job ends as far as the standard making is concerned.
Completely agree, Pauja Saab. The brand sort of is built based on the certification, which is a must for the brand to be created. So without that certification, the brand has no meaning. Because you associate the brand with a certain quality also. बोलिए महेश जी, what is your thought on this?
सर मैं एक बोलना चाहूंगा कि सर आज सपोज हमको आज अगर हार्डवेयर लेना है बाथरूम के लिए तो लोग बोलते हैं हेटेक का माल ले लीजिए। सर इंडियन कंपनीज भी बनाती है अच्छा, लेकिन हमारे को पता नहीं है, यह हमारी की ब्रांडिंग और उसका मतलब उसके बारे में बताया नहीं गया है। कहीं ना कहीं हम उसके पीछे वर्क करें तो ऑब्वियसली ये जो है ना कि मेक इन इंडिया, देयर आर गुड फैब्रिकेटर्स, देयर आर गुड पीपल हु आर मेकिंग गुड कंपोनेंट्स, बट देयर इज अवेयरनेस का कुछ कमी है जो शायद आवर पेरेंट बॉडी ISDA we look forward to will help us ठीक है, we want Indians to come, we want India people to bring with the food, and they are capable.
I agree. We will work with you as far as improving quality is concerned.
Exactly.
And that itself will give you a brand equity in the market.
Yeah, see, for example, if you look at carbon steel segment, there is a body in India called INSDAG, Institute for Steel Development and Growth. They had, taken contribution from all the producers together, and they went for a campaign called Steel is Life. Now, this was a huge expenditure. If I remember correctly, it was something like 5 or 6 crore. The total campaign cost was 5 to 6 crore. Now, it says 5 or 6 players having contributed towards that, because the majors only are members of INSDAG. Now, there was a serious allegation. I'm not taking the name of the Director General at that point of time. There was a serious allegation that there was a misappropriation of funds when that campaign happened. So why would Mr. Pahuja take the blame of being partisan towards someone, or to take that kind of a responsibility? When you want to promote stainless steel as a generic material, I think the producers themselves can come on a platform, and then if you want to promote Stainless India or Stainless India as a brand, you are most welcome to do it. So that you ensure that people are buying the Indian brand. I'm sure Mr. Rajiv Shetty will not be too happy when I say this, but at the same time, the primary responsibility for all of us is to ensure that we promote brand India. Otherwise, why this talk about it?
But that point is well taken, that we have to work together to improve quality continuously. Exactly. And that's why, improving quality and standards is a continuous process as far as ISDA is concerned.
Right. Thank you, Pahuja ji. Thank you, Sharma Sahab. With that, we'll move on to Mr. J.K. Chatterjee and Mr. Bhaleria, because I told Mr. Bhaleria right at the beginning, he came on a special request from Mr. Vijay Sharma. Because Mr. Vijay Sharma requested him again, that is why he said yes, because he had 2 very important meetings today, which he had to attend. So when he spoke to him, he told me one thing, "Mujhe aap last mein rakhiye." Because I told him then aapka responsibility badh jata hai, because you have to sort of sum up the entire proceedings, whatever has happened. Mr. Bhaleria has kindly agreed. So he will be the last speaker. Before that, we have Mr. J.K. Chatterjee. So 2 speakers back to back. Mr. J.K. Chatterjee, who was earlier, as you know, with the Indian Ferroalloy Producers Association, and he's a Tata man all through, worked in Tata Steel for almost his life. Mr. J.K. Chatterjee was Secretary General of India Ferroalloys Producers Association. Now he is, right now he's the director with Mitra SK, which is an inspection agency. And the owner of the company, the promoter of the company, Sajal Mitra, is a classmate of mine. So that's how I know Mitra SK quite very well. So over to you, Mr. Chatterjee. Mr. Chatterjee, are you there?
His name is not there.
Not here. That means he is. Okay. Then we'll move on to Mr. Bhaleria. अच्छा हो गया Bhaleria जी, आपको ज़्यादा wait नहीं करना पड़ा.
Thank you.
But then again, you are a person I love. Whenever I get into a conversation with you on a telephone, I love talking to you. So it's good to hear you after quite some time. मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है जब आप बोलते हैं, because you speak from your heart. I'm really a fan of yours.
Everybody is. Sorry to butt in, but everybody is.
Yeah, great, Bhaleria ji. The floor is yours.
Thank you, my friends. I'm Hitendra Balaria. We are not into main producer. We are actually a customer of yours, and we use the flat products. But we learn a lot from all the stalwarts. Right from, I can start from LK Singhal, Nagarajan, and many others. F.U. Khan from Rimjim, Nami. There are so many people who help me to educate me. Metallurgical knowledge important for the utensils, and utensils is important for the nation building and corrosion and stress corrosion, other things, how to remove and our GDP, what is losing 4% is an important contribution. How can we learn it? So we are into the stainless steel utensils, and this is 185 to 190 years is a family history. I'm a 7th generation, last 42 years I am working. My 8th generation started working. So it's a long history that we have experience of the Indian market. Our exports market, other than Africa and Gulf minimum, but the rest of the world, Europe and Scandinavia to USA, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and America, South America, everywhere we are successful. We have got 575 importers and roughly 2,000 dealer network in India. And the product SKU is a approximate 8,500 to 9,000 SKU, right from 0.3 mm to 4 mm thickness, and various all sort of grades that we help them, right from sculpture. If you want to make, we help them to make their sculpture 316L to the 200 series. So this is the short introduction, and everybody was talking sustainable. To make it sustainable, we have got our captive power plant solar in the company. Being a SME, we wanted to also be a part of the journey, that we should not we also make our own solar captive plant, and green. More than 700 plants are planted in the factory area, so that we also are part of the nation. And what now the Modi government wanted 300 million ton target. So to achieve this target, make in India target, luckily in 92, in 8th standard, I think Modi came to my dream when I was studying in 8th standard, and he told me make in India. So I was learning civics, and there were dacoit. I said, why this dacoit? Because they don't get a one-time food, so they become dacoit. So I will create a employment, so that Modi, in what he gave in my childhood, a dream, and I also worked on the same pace. How to in a utensil, the buffing is the very 10 times people employing. We are currently employed more than 2,000 people in the company, and we have trained more than 20,000 people from our company. So they go outside and teach, and we spread. The next thing in 1991, when the gold was pledged in Japan and USA, in London. So I felt very bad. So I decided not to do anything hanky-panky, but we'll bring the dollar to the nation. Let's make the pie bigger. So in order to do that, we have started exports and bring the world market money to the India. To do so, I have to make a new design for what they want. I cannot deliver what I make. So I changed my strategy. What they want, we change our strategy. And to learn that, all my IIT professor in Powai helped me a lot. I'm very thankful to them. And they have taught me a lot of things, operation to process and everything, sheet metal forming. So I'm blessed by them. So it's my luck. Now stainless steel is a job creation. And the funny part is that it is ignored till now. But if you look at stainless steel, is a family favicol. What I call it, family favicol. How? Because in a steel plate or a tumbler is not individual. Your mattresses can be yours, your bed can be yours, but the house, joint family, have the commonly using the spoon, everything is not a particular person's item. It's a joint family things. It's a bonding between the family using the same product, everybody. So this is a stainless steel favicol in the utensils together. Now, how to increase 300 million? Everybody's telling we have to replace some of the not good. Aluminum is food problem material. Copper hazardous on a food poison. Some you have to do the tinning, brass, and this. So this our old tradition business of copper brass converted to stainless steel. Now the porcelain and the ceramic is a lesser life. So if you convert them into better material of the stainless steel, the life of the corrosion will be less, and our environment will be much better. So we are working on replacement of the hardware industry, started using them. But now for the grade, if we talk about the grades and the branding, what we are discussing now, the branding is an individual concept that consumer have them, their experience. Business is all about experience, what you are giving them. not good, bad. It should be a wow factor. When they feel in their hand, it should shine, no scratch, and wonderful. And the mouth publicity goes to one another. Okay, we had a Hema Malini as our promoter in our exhibition, stainless steel industry exhibition. Hema Malini has promoted our product, use stainless steel and why it should use. So we have tried these also, my friend. Now to use the brand to develop, we have told we are using the Indian stainless steel and other things. I assure you that if anything, corrosion, stress, corrosion, something happened wrong at manufacturing stage at my end, we give double the replacement than one piece. So I have put a check on our own company that we will never able to use the cheaper and for price competitive products. Use the better grade, forget the price competitiveness, give the best first. Don't take any problem.
में जैसे इन्होंने ये लिखा है लीगल ओपिनियन ऑन मंथली पेमेंट एंड इनवॉइसिंग, हम थोड़ा सा उसमें भी डाल दें मंथली पेमेंट, रॉयल्टी
सर
एंड इनवॉइसिंग, तो उसमें एक रॉयल्टी वर्ड साथ में डाल देंगे क्योंकि रॉयल्टी का भी कैलकुलेशन पे है ना.
This is, can we help it letter? Yeah. So this is the way on the surface finish, the woman takes the product. On the brand value of the company, they were satisfied before, or the mouth-to-mouth publicity of the shopkeeper tells them, this is the better material, you take it. These are the three ways. The things MSME cannot do the branding like a big companies and multinational can do, because there is not a deep pocket of the profit inside that we are selling at a price. So it's a very, very thin margin, uneducated people in the market without brand and other things. So we cannot ignore that. So, and there is no budget to spend such a huge money on that. So only improve in the quality. So what we do, increase the nickel content. I see the chromium is sufficient. And this is how instead of what others are in 1 level or 2 level, use the best grade available. You cannot go to 5 level. Then your product is not sellable. You love your product, but it is unsellable in the shelf. So that we have to come in between. You use 1 or 2 grade higher, expensive, people tell you no problem products. So, but there are some problem comes for the weld, you focus on the carbon. So if the carbon is more on the weld product, ignore them, never use them. So carbon is a culprit on them. On the chromium, when you weld them, the chrome 1%, 2% goes down. So never use 13% chrome in the weldings, otherwise it will go to 12 and below. So you will face the curve. So use 14.5, 14, 15, like a grade for weld area. So the one, even it goes down, does not have problem. And use the same material as a welding rod or the higher chrome material for the welding rod are the few trick of the trade that everybody is doing. Okay, what I learned with the whole many stalwart, that focus on the chemistry from the other vendor. If you somebody giving you cheaper material, but you focus, there is a lead, zinc, aluminum, anything there, radioactive cobalt is not there. So not only the good element, you should focus on the bad element, how much it is. So if you know what bad element tolerance is, then you are exceptionally making your good product. Now from product to product, if you have to do not drop machine, it has to be sulfur. But the more the sulfur, heat shock treatment, heat shock will make a sulfur crack. So don't use on a saucepan, on a tops and other things. So it's a sulfur is a culprit. Now phosphorus is a culprit for draw. Everybody used Talwart are knowing the best. So this is increase the nickel to make a balanced chemistry, and it should not be on the borderline of the face center cubic and the center cubic. So 400, 200 series are separated. Austenitic grade is well maintained on the below the joining line on iron carbon diagram. Is the things that we learn every day and we improve. Now keep on improving is the only thing today. And I joined the last 3 years with the Rohit on the BIS, and we are on the verge of standardizing in BIS committee. And also for better finish, the temperature of the sheet has to be better. But more the better the surface crystal, then the surface is hard. When if it is hard, surface is better. But we have got a stress corrosion draw. So we have to balance between those crystal structure of the what size of the bigger the crystal, bigger the size, lesser the finish. Smaller the size, finish is better, but it gives a stress corrosion. So life is a balancing, and we are balancing. As the price is going up and up, then the sale is going down and down. Last after the Diwali, we see the hike in the price. Then due to non-demand from the market, it come back. But yesterday or last week on the Ukraine and other things, the nickel has again shot up. So this fluctuation kills us in exports. So we are unable to explain the world market customer every day. This is not a London Stock Exchange that I can fluctuate my price every day. So this is the what is a pain area from us. And I think everybody will take care. And we will gradually have a bigger scale of operation to reduce the overhead, our fixed overheads. If we can produce 3 times, the fixed overhead goes down and India will be competitive and will achieve 300 million ton. I hope I tried to narrate in a short time as if you were late. Thank you for calling me on this seminar, Mukherjee, and I'm very thankful to you.
Thank you so much, sir. और आप बोल रहे थे, I do not know anything about stainless steel. अगर आप नहीं जानते तो इस देश में कौन है जो can talk about P&S on the chemistry of steel making. So ये आपका इतना विनम्रता से जो है, इसके लिए आपको एक ये स्टेनलेस स्टील एग्जीबिशन में मुझे वड़ा पाव आप जरूर खिलाएंगे. आई एम एक्सपेक्टिंग वड़ा पाव फॉर द एग्जीबिशन इन मुंबई इन अप्रैल. मैंने सही हीरा को पहचान के रिक्वेस्ट किया कि आप बोले आप असली हीरा हैं, लेकिन आप बोलते हैं मैं स्टेनलेस स्टील के बारे में कुछ नहीं जानता हूँ. दिस इज योर great humbleness that you always show, but we know you are a knowledgeable man, not just knowledgeable man, a man whom I can have a conversation for hours. या अगर मेरा बस चलता तो मैं 2 घंटा आपको बैठा के रखता कि only we want to hear from you. Thank you so much भलेरिया जी. हाँ बोलिए शर्मा जी.
मैं भलारिया साहब, मैं आपके बारे में कुछ कहना चाहूंगा. परिपक्वता, स्पष्टता, निर्भयता, निष्पक्षता, वाक्पटुता. आई होप पीपल हैव अंडरस्टूड दिस. ये भलारिया साहब की पहचान है. निर्मला जी, थोड़ा सा समय इनके साथ और लगाइएगा, आपको बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. मुंबई में इनको बुलाइए, साथ रहेंगे 4-5 घंटे.
So you know what I will request Anurag to do is to put in one of the sessions Valera ji, and I'm sure the audience will get captivated.
Yes.
और मेरा वड़ा पाव भूलिएगा नहीं भलेरे जी. वड़ा पाव मुझे आप मुझे वड़ा पाव खिलाएंगे.
फर्स्ट अभी ये साल का इनवाइट करता हूं सर. वड़ा पाव नेक्स्ट टाइम है. अभी हम इटली खिलाएंगे. हम मद्रास में हैं. पहली हमारी एसोसिएशन की वहां मीटिंग एग्जीबिशन चेन्नई में है. तमिलनाडु इज द मोस्ट यूजिंग स्टेनलेस स्टील इन द होल कंट्री. पर पर्सन यूजेज इन स्टेनलेस स्टील इज तमिलनाडु. So we want to first we are there. Next future we'll go there, and I will always invite you to see that and to see the best thing what going on and what is the problem going on in the industry. Thank you for inviting me. Any question I can take.
Yeah. Anyone wants to, any of the panelists or any of the attendees? Okay, Mahesh ji has a question. Balel ji, Mahesh ji का एक सवाल है. Mahesh जी पूछिए.
सर फॉरेन में 400 सीरीज के ऊपर में बर्तन में बहुत काम हुआ है या यूसेज में बहुत काम हुआ है. सर इंडिया में 400 सीरीज का यूसेज नहीं हुआ. मतलब लोअर निकल पे ज्यादा काम हुआ बर्तन में. सर ऐसा क्यों हुआ इंडिया में? सर आप सही बता पाएंगे सर?
Yes, you are right. The IKEA is the company. When the 400 series used, nickel is a volatile and copper is a volatile. In the 400, we don't have copper and we don't have nickel, which is the highly volatile, 2 main ingredient on a non-magnetic. So these 2 elements, IKEA wanted a 18 months ago, 36 months ago, they make that planning, design and catalog and other things. So they removed all the fluctuating material from the product. So they started 430. And in 430, they don't feel any shame. But in India, lot ago, a time, there was people have cheated them why the using MS chrome plated. So all the women had a mindset looking by the magnet. If it is a magnet, it's a bullshit. So they don't want anything. The shopkeeper don't want to keep your product. Though the 430 is a better heat conductive like a MS and gives a great result on a cookware. But the people thicker material, we promote them, we explain them. If you have a problem, I will come back to you, any problem. So we are promoting 430 a little bit.
Sir, I have a question. Balaria sir, what do you think about this tri-ply material for utensils, which is all getting imported? And we are not able to make in India. Is there we can't make it cost effectively, or we don't have sufficient quantity to make in India? because the tri-ply looks like a future for the utensils, cooking utensils.
Yes, I do agree. There is advantage of the aluminum in between inside 304 material they used. So all the goodness of 304 you are using 0.5, 1.5 mm aluminum for the better heat conductivity material is bonded. And for induction purpose, there is a 430 outside. This is cladded together, and gradually the demand has last 3 years went to more than 3 to 4 times. There were only few people using this, and in 99 or 2000, I sent it one sample to Mr. L.K. Singhal in Jindal to look at the opportunity. But that time the market was not there. The one who is a front leader always get killed, and the second leader who get a flag that I win. So we don't want to be a front runner, then killed ourselves. And the second guy who comes on the field, he makes the flag that I have achieved the success. So nobody wants this. But now I think is a time to take over. It's not a big investment. Now the balance sheet of the companies have revealed, and it's a time to invest in this, and no need to go for the scrap of tri-ply is a little problem, but it's a great market. Why aluminum? We can use the mild steel, and the mild steel, if we can in between aluminum, we are scarcity, but we can include a mild steel, and then we fold them by the stainless steel, so the mild steel does not appear on that. That is also a possible new technology, and the mild steel or material can help you. So I'm great. You promote them into bigger ISDA platform. That why our main producer don't do that. I request you to take a call, and I will always there for any help you need to join you.
Thank you, sir. I think it's very much on our mind.
Thank you so much, Valeria sir. I wish we could continue with you for one day, one session only with Mr. Hiten and Valeria. That would have been really a learning experience for all of us. So it is 6:35 by almost 6:35. So last 3 hours, I would say, was very well spent. Exactly 3 hours. And finally, Rohit, you should be happy. We finally managed to finish on time. So
yes, sir,
although
well
we had one
appreciated,
dropout,
yes.
so because of one dropout, we saved a little time. But we managed to finish on time as per the schedule. And thanks to everyone. I have आखिरी में बलियारी जी आपसे एक सवाल पूछना था. Can I ask you, though it is not related to stainless steel?
Anything.
I am on the 4th of March. I have planned a webinar, interaction with the Russian steel industry as far as decarbonization and other issues are concerned. Given the, क्योंकि आप खुल के बोलते हैं, आप खुल के बोलिए. Because what my feeling is, I feel my Prime Minister is a very wise man. This is my feeling. My personal feeling is my Prime Minister will take a judicious decision. आपको क्या लगता है, इस वेबिनार मुझे आगे बढ़ना चाहिए या नहीं चाहिए?
With Russia?
With Russia.
On the 4th of March, our stainless steel exhibition we are in Chicago exhibiting. What time it is? If it is a night, and if I can join you on a webinar, I'll be happy to join you anyway. What input that you want from Russian? This fight and the nickel has increased and those kind of things?
No, it is not just on stainless steel. It is on the entire steel industry together. तो इसका मतलब आपका जवाब है, I should go ahead with the India-Russia.
No, Mr. Mukherjee, I think you have to re-articulate. भलारिया साहब ये समझना चाह रहे हैं कि जो परिस्थिति चल रही है, भारत सरकार क्या स्टांस लेती है, उसके मद्देनजर स्टील के कॉन्टेक्स्ट के अंदर रशिया के स्टील मेकर के साथ इतनी जल्दी करें ना करें, आपका विचार लेना चाह रहे थे. ये बड़ा मुश्किल सवाल है मुखर्जी साहब, बहुत मुश्किल सवाल है.
यही शर्मा साहब,
न्यूट्रल रहना की भी इंटरप्रिटेशन बड़ी
अभी
खतरनाक
मुश्किल हो गया.
है.
अभी न्यूट्रल रहना भी मुश्किल हो गया, क्योंकि बिकॉज यू हैव टू कीप द वेस्ट हैप्पी आल्सो. हम तो बस ये नहीं बोल सकते कि वी आर डिपेंडेंट ओनली ऑन रशिया. वी आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन बोथ ईस्ट एंड द वेस्ट, दोनों तरफ से. एंड द वर्ल्ड जियोपॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन इज इवॉल्विंग इन अ डिफरेंट वे. आज इमरान खान जाके पुतिन के गोद में बैठा हुआ है.
सर हमें भूलना नहीं चाहिए, सर हमें भूलना नहीं चाहिए 71 में यही अमेरिका हमारे पे अटैक करने आया था, तो रशिया ने हमें जिंदा रखा था अपना काफिला वहां रख के. हम उसकी वो एहसान को भूलना नहीं चाहिए हमें. आज हम जो बात कर रहे हैं उनके एहसान की बदौलत है, और हमेशा मुसीबत में हम उसके भी खड़े रहे, वो हमारे रहा. तो ऐसे पुराने मित्र को छोड़ के नए मित्र बनाने में पुराने के बलि नहीं लेनी चाहिए.
Exactly. लेकिन ये बड़ा ये जिसको बोलते हैं ना वॉकिंग ऑन अ टाइट रोप, वो भी सिचुएशन है. सो लेट अस होप दैट one day. लेकिन मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा, when the foreign secretary, I was listening to his press conference. So the MEA foreign secretary was very clear. He said that जब हमारे ये दरवाजे पे खटखटा रहा था डोकलाम पे, तब कोई आया था हमें बचाने, कोई आया था, एक भी स्टेटमेंट दिया था. So that way, we should remain grateful to all our friends. हम ऐसा एहसान फरमोश तो नहीं हो सकते. We have to remain grateful to our friends, old friends. So I think a judicial decision will be taken very soon. So with that, I would like to thank everyone once again. I'm sorry I ended on a very sensitive issue, but that was just to make the scenario a bit lighter, because all of us are worried. And let us all pray that the Indian students and the Indian community in Ukraine is safe. And wishing you a very happy weekend to all of you. With that, I thank everyone, and let us conclude the session today. Thank you, Sharma Saab. Thank you, Pahuja ji. Thank you, Balaria ji. Thank you, Rajiv Shetty ji, Mr. Manish Sharda, Mahesh Gupta ji, and all who have joined us today. Very special thanks to all of you. Take care and good night. Thank you, Sharma Saab.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.